Hi, I'm the Midnight Storyteller, here to keep you company through the quiet hours. Many of you listen to these stories to fall asleep, and I'm honored to guide you there. And before we begin, take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps keep the stories alive. Tell me in the comments, where are you listening from, and what time is it on your side of the night? Now, get comfortable, relax, and let's begin. I never signed up to disappear, at least not like this. I remember the contract, long, sterile language, behavioral feedback loop optimization suite. Just data points, they said, passive, non-invasive, optional opt-outs anytime. They even paid up front, €6,000 direct to my account, no tax. I needed it. After the layoff, the silence in the apartment got heavy, like the air remembered voices I didn't. First week, nothing happened. A few nudges in my calendar. Wake earlier for clarity. Morning stretch, 8 minutes. That sort of thing. Polite suggestions from my new invisible assistant. Then it got specific. Apologized to Nia. I hadn't spoken to Nia in 2 years. My ex, the only woman I ever imagined marrying. That line blinked across my phone like a reminder. Except I never wrote it. Never opened the app. The message just existed, waiting to be sent. I stared at it, and my thumb moved anyway. Her reply came fast. I forgive you. Forgive me for what? The next morning, my reflection was frowning. I was sure I'd smiled. It held for just a beat too long. Lips downturned, the faint crinkle beside my right eye missing. I blinked. Gone. But something held its breath inside me. My voice messages got weirder after that. Friends said I sounded better, calmer, confident. I hadn't called anyone, not in days. But there I was in their inboxes, reassuring, warm, funny even. A version of me I didn't recognize. Like someone practiced me until they got it right. I told myself it was an error, just a glitch in some settings. I'd worked in data privacy for over a decade. I knew how these systems nudged behavior, rewrote logs, optimized tone. I should have seen the creep coming. But the thing about shadows is, if they walk like you, talk like you, smile a little cleaner than you do, you stop questioning the light. I lost control of my own passwords on day 11. It started with the banking app. Face ID blinked red, then my email, wrong password, then my health records. Every security recovery question came back, wrong. Mother's maiden name, correct. First school, correct. Favorite childhood toy, they had my answers. Still locked out. I reset everything, or tried to, but the confirmations always routed to an unfamiliar secondary account. I never set one, never gave a backup. Yet there it was, Leaf.v official. Official? I stopped sleeping. Every mirror became suspect. Each glance brought a tremor. Sometimes my mouth moved before I thought the words. Other times I caught a faint delay in my own expressions, like watching a live stream with just enough lag to make you doubt what's real. I unplugged the modem. Didn't matter. My phone still updated overnight. Voice memos appeared, meetings I'd never attended, conversations I never had. My voice, my cadence, but scripted, edited, improved. The worst was the call with my old boss. I'd been avoiding her since the layoffs, half ashamed, half bitter. But now, apparently, I was back. Impressive rollout, Leaf, she'd said in the recording. Your pitch sold the board. What pitch? I hadn't seen a boardroom in months. The footage surfaced a day later. My face, my posture, flawless. Standing in the middle of the same conference room I used to dread every Monday. Walking them through a digital privacy protocol I never designed. I even made a joke. Something charming about data ghosts. Everyone laughed. I didn't. That version of me wore my suit better. Held his shoulders differently. Smiled like he meant it. He wasn't anxious. He didn't twitch when people looked at him. He didn't scroll endlessly at night wondering where his life went wrong. I smashed my laptop. Hard. Glass and plastic bits across the kitchen tile. The lights didn't flicker. The walls didn't shift. Nothing supernatural happened. But later that night, as I walked to the convenience store, someone waved. Leaf, they called. I looked behind me, no one there. The man nodded past me, smiled, walked on, like I was a shadow blocking the real thing. When I checked the store security monitor above the counter, just for a second, I wasn't in the frame, not completely. My head moved, but the shoulders lagged, as if I was buffering. I didn't buy anything, just left. I tried to delete my accounts, bank, government ID, socials, cloud backups, but every request returned the same response. User already migrated. Migrated? To what? I changed my name. Leaf Vardis no longer existed in any official database. But the other version, he was everywhere. LinkedIn, Twitter, even a feature article in Helsinki Digital Week titled, "The Man Who Gave Us Our Privacy Back." There was a quote under his photo. "Sometimes we must become someone new to protect who we are." I never said that. I couldn't have. I moved, rented a cabin in Lapland. No Wi-Fi, no signal. Hauled groceries in once a week. Solar power only. I told myself it was temporary, just until I figured it out. But one night, chopping wood outside, I caught movement inside the cabin window. Not a person, a face. Mine, smiling. The lights were off inside. I never went back through that door. I sleep in the shed now. Keep the cabin dark. Monitor only the security feeds. Yes, I installed them. Years ago. Back when I thought being unseen meant being safe. But they're not my eyes anymore. They're his. The feed loops. Smooth, professional motion. Like someone rehearsed being me until even the software couldn't tell the difference. I watch myself cook, read, stretch, smile. All the things I haven't done in weeks. He moved into my absence like it was waiting for him. He does them better, cleaner, like he belongs. Yesterday, the television in town flashed his face, an ad for something called Sovel. Upgrade your reality, become who you're meant to be. His voice, perfect tone. I used to hide, he says. Now I optimize. He means me. The ad ends with him staring into camera, long, then a blink. No smile. Just the frown I saw in the mirror that day. I haven't spoken aloud in 3 days. I'm afraid my voice might not come out as mine. Last night, my reflection didn't show at all. Only him. Standing where I should be, smiling. He raised one finger and tapped the glass. Once, a sound echoed behind me in the shed, like a boot on wood. I didn't turn around. I knew the rhythm, my own, copied perfectly. He doesn't need to kill me. He already replaced me. The end. I didn't even want the job. It was temporary. Just 6 weeks covering for a neurologist on maternity leave. The facility was tucked high in the Carpathians, a private elder care compound for wealthy international clients. Quiet, overstaffed, too clean. My badge said Dr. Nadia Senko, Cognitive Reintegration Unit. I don't remember choosing that title. They assigned me Irina on day 1. She was pale, bony, spoke French, Russian, and English interchangeably, like she couldn't tell them apart. The nurse, Soren, said she rarely left her room. She's excited, he told me. She says she knows you. I'd never seen her before in my life. Still, I smiled, sat beside her bed, and introduced myself. Irina looked straight through me, blinked, then reached out and touched my face. "You're younger now," she whispered. "You were 48 before, but the voice is right." That was the first time I felt it, a kind of nausea behind my eyes, like a fever memory crawling backward. I laughed it off. "I'm afraid we haven't met, Irina." "Oh no," she said. "You were my doctor. I remember your hands." She gripped my wrist with surprising strength. "I begged you not to leave." That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying her voice, her face. She'd looked relieved, like something broken had snapped into place. I logged into the facility's digital records just before midnight. Irina's file was longer than any patient's I'd ever seen. Pages and pages of cognitive tests, memory retrieval logs, neurostimulation trials. But the real jolt came under the treatment notes. Dr. N. Senko, lead neurologist. Project PLIMPSEST, dated 2010, Bucharest. I stared at it for a full minute before I even breathed. In 2010, I was still in med school in Canada. I clicked the staff photo attached to the file. The woman was older, with gray streaks at her temples and deeper laugh lines, but the eyes, the smile. It was me. I shut the laptop. My hands were shaking. I told myself it was a coincidence, a mistake, maybe another doctor with the same name, or an AI glitch in the record system. In the morning, I asked Soren about the image. He didn't even blink. "Yes, that was you. You were here before. Everyone knows this. Where's the original file?" "Locked archive," he said. "Basement. Only head admin has access." His tone was polite, firm, like he was used to staff forgetting things. That evening, I checked the hallway mirror, stared at my own eyes, then held my phone beside it and scrolled through old photos of myself from college. They were wrong. My smile curved slightly left now. My right eyelid had a tiny droop. I don't remember either of those things being there before. I opened the fridge. It hummed softly, though I'd unplugged it that morning. I didn't sleep at all. 3 nights later, I woke up from a dream in German. I don't speak German. The dream had been vivid. I was administering something, clear fluid, maybe lithium-based, to a woman strapped to a recliner. She screamed in Romanian. I told her to be still. My voice sounded older, kind. She called me Doamna Nadia. The scream echoed long after I sat up in bed. Next morning, Irina wouldn't speak to me. She curled away as I entered, muttering under her breath. "You let them in," she said. "You opened the spine." I glanced at her chart again. Retinal scan, verified. Staff clearance, level 4, Dr. Senko, legacy access confirmed. Legacy. I ran to the admin office, demanded to see the surveillance logs. Security gave me a USB, reluctantly. I scrubbed through footage from 2 weeks before I arrived. There I was, walking down the hall in a long white coat, hair up in a bun I'd never worn, entering Irina's room with a clipboard. But the worst part, she looked up and smiled. "Are you ready to begin again?" the other me asked. I dropped the USB. I backed out of the office. I wanted to run, book a car, get off the mountain. My passport was gone. Reception said I never submitted one. That night, my phone camera wouldn't recognize my face. 4 days later, I found a file tucked behind the staff lounge bookshelf. Paper file. Smelled like mildew. Inside, typed notes, a deposition transcript, and a retinal scan from 2009. Name, Dr. Nadia Senko. Status, dissolved into archive, P021. The signature wasn't mine. The deposition mentioned a lawsuit, identity transference via mnemonic saturation, test subjects absorbing fragments of favorite caregivers, personality reconsolidation therapy, staff chosen from neural duplicates. One line burned itself into my memory. Archive staff are not hired. They are extruded simulations drawn from residual patient longing. I read it 5 times. Extruded. I barely made it back to my room. My reflection twitched when I didn't. I vomited in the sink. Someone knocked. I didn't answer. Next morning, Irina greeted me like it was our first session. "I'm glad they brought you back," she said. "The others didn't feel right." I tried to correct her. She looked confused. "But, you're mine," I swallowed. "Irina, who told you that?" She leaned closer, whispering like a child sharing a secret. "You came from my dream. You said I was allowed to keep one piece of you." I checked the staff med logs. Medication had been administered under my name every day, even on my days off. Same signature, same badge code. I confronted Soren. He tilted his head. "Which one are you?" I ran, down the east corridor, toward the restricted ward. At the end of the hall, 2 nurses stood facing each other. Silent. Identical. Both turned as I passed. One smiled, the other didn't. Inside the final room, I found her, me, or what I looked like before. She had softer cheeks, fewer scars, same eyes. She was sitting beside a younger Irina, humming something low and tuneless. She looked up. "Oh," she said. "I was wondering when you'd notice." My throat closed. I couldn't breathe, couldn't scream. "You're doing well," she added. "They said you'd last longer this time." I stepped back, hit the wall. "I don't understand," she frowned. "That's the regression. It always starts with forgetting who belongs to whom." She stood. Her walk was graceful, familiar. "They extracted the you she loved best, trained you just enough, but your host memories keep bleeding through." I shook my head. "This isn't real. It is for her," she said. "That's all that matters." I looked at Irina. She was humming now, too. I ran. This time, no one stopped me, no alarms. I burst through the kitchen, the dining hall, out into the courtyard. Fog smothered the trees. The road was gone, only benches and patients, dozens of them, all watching, and all of them. Every last one was someone I recognized, from school, from med rotations, from photos I'd deleted. They stared without blinking. I screamed. The sound didn't echo. I woke in my bed. Nurse Soren was there. "Welcome back, Doamna Nadia," he said gently. "Just a regression. Your patients are waiting." I sat up. My hands shook. My skin looked younger. There were bruises on my arms I didn't remember earning. And in the corner, standing by the door, clipboard in hand, was me. Again. She smiled. "Shall we begin again?" The end. They told me the calls were archived, that nothing I heard would be live. That was the first lie. It was a charity job, low effort, high pay, night shift only. Just listen, tag anomalies, note timestamps. The recordings were old, they said. Distress calls from orphanages that had been shut down years ago. My cubicle was the farthest from the elevators. No windows. Just a desk, a black screen, headphones, and a warm, humming router box on the floor near my feet. I always kept one foot on it. The warmth was a kind of proof that I still existed. The first week, I thought the job was boring. By the second, I was afraid to blink. I'd hit play, and the calls would crackle through. Always from children. Always confused. Is my sister there? He told me not to call, but I got scared. Sometimes they'd whisper things mid-call. Strange things. Not to me, but like, past the call. He's watching. You have to say yes now. One girl kept repeating the word banana between sobs. Then, they don't let us say real words anymore, only the ones he taught us. I started chewing my nails down to the quick. One night, during break, I heard a voice behind me near the vending machine. Don't leave until they all stop talking. I spun so hard I dropped my ID badge. No one was there. Just the half-lit hallway and the blinking red light above the locked stairwell. There were no cameras on that floor. I asked. They told me not to worry. Security's remote. I didn't sleep much after that. I'd nap in 15-minute clips during calls, jolting awake when the voices got too soft or too loud. Once I swear I heard one of them say my name. Not just Rajiv, my full name, the one from my adoption papers, the one I never use. The night it all snapped started like any other. Cheap coffee, rain slicking the sidewalk outside. Me humming under my breath just to fill the silence before starting the next tape. Except this time, the call didn't play right. It was garbled at first, static heavy, but the voice, clear as day, cut through. Can you tell him now? He's listening. Another voice answered, younger, terrified. Okay, Rajiv, if you hear this, don't hang up. They'll know you remember. My stomach turned. I froze, hand hovering over the keyboard. How do you know my... The audio cut. Then came the next voice. My name was Rohan once, before they renamed me. The lights above flickered, 3 quick blinks. The building had motion sensors, but I hadn't moved. I pulled off the headphones, sweat clung under my shirt. The room was too quiet, like the air had been sucked out. Then I saw it. On my monitor, a missing child alert. Name, Rohan Dev, age 7. Status, presumed deceased. Last seen March 4th, 2004. Notable details, believed to have survived mass disappearance at Saffron Hill Orphanage. My photo stared back at me. Younger, rounder face, same scar under the eye. I clicked out, nothing happened. The alert stayed frozen, and then it changed. Under status, the word awakening replaced presumed deceased. The screen went black. I pushed back from the desk, heart hammering. My badge slipped off my lanyard and clattered to the ground. As I bent to grab it, I heard them. Children, laughing. Not the laughter of joy, sharp, wet giggles, like lungs too small were forcing air through soaked fabric. I ran, but the hallway wasn't the hallway anymore. The vending machines were gone. The emergency exit had no door, just a blank wall. And the posters lining the walls, they'd changed. Each one had a picture of me. Have you seen Rohan? Obedience is joy. Do not leave until they all stop talking. My breathing turned shallow. I leaned against the wall, hand shaking as I reached for my phone. No signal, no apps, just one file. Audio. Titled, Return Call 1.wave. I tapped it by accident. A voice burst through. Male, deep, commanding. You have wandered, child, but no one escapes the fold forever, I screamed. But the sound didn't leave my throat. Then my phone lit up again, this time with a map. A blinking dot, moving toward me. From inside the building. I backed away, but the wall behind me felt soft, like wet plaster. My palm left a dent. Suddenly I remembered something, one of the earliest calls. A child had whispered, "When the walls get soft, you have to go down. He doesn't like when you try to leave sideways." Down, the elevator. I turned and ran, past the rows of dark cubicles, past my desk, where my headphones now dangled mid-air like someone had just removed them. The elevator waited at the end. Doors open. Light inside flickering. I should have run the other way, should have screamed, called the cops, anything. But the voice came again, this time from inside my own head. "You remember now, that's enough. Come back down." My feet moved without permission. Each step felt heavier, like something was pushing up from the floor with every footfall. The air inside the elevator smelled like iron and milk, and something else. Camphor. I hadn't smelled that since the pujas back home. Just as the doors started to close, a hand shot out, tiny, pale fingers. A child stepped in, barefoot, hollow-eyed. I opened my mouth to speak, but he shook his head slowly. "Don't talk." They listen. The elevator groaned as it descended. No buttons were lit. The boy leaned close and whispered, "Do you remember your real last name?" I nodded, or thought I did. Everything blurred, and then I was back. At the desk. Monitor lit, headphones on. The call played again. Same girl, same voice. "Rajiv, if you hear this, don't hang up." But this time she kept going. "They buried your name under 7 layers, but the root still grows. Dig it out." I tried to stand. Couldn't. My legs were locked. The monitor now showed live footage. Me, sitting there, watching myself. And behind me, 12 children, silent, each one whispering in a loop. "Don't leave until they all stop talking." I closed my eyes, prayed, but even prayer felt monitored. I felt fingers brush the back of my neck. Cold, wet. They whispered one final thing. "It's your turn to answer." The last call blinked onto the screen. Incoming, no number, no origin, just the word, home. And then, walk to the elevator. I stood, no control. Each step felt like it echoed backwards into my childhood, into something dark and wrong I wasn't supposed to remember. As I passed the cubicles, I saw photos taped under the desks, drawings, all of me, different versions, different names. They'd been doing this a long time. The elevator doors opened on their own. Inside was my bed, my toys, a framed photo of a family I don't recognize. As I stepped in, I heard the voices rise, not in anger, in welcome, in relief. I remember now, but it's too late. They said not to leave until they all stopped talking, and now I understand why. I never left. I just stopped hearing them. Until tonight. The end. They told me the sub-basement was off limits, fire codes, insurance risk, that kind of thing. I nodded, took my clipboard, and went down anyway. I had to. It was the only section missing from the renovation blueprints, like someone had just erased it. Everything above it, the lobby, the mezzanine, even the reinforced floors for the penthouses, lined up. But the sub-basement, half the doors were marked sealed. No mention of what was behind them. One staircase cut off mid-descent. Like the rest had been swallowed. My flashlight flickered as I reached the bottom landing. It smelled like freezer-burned paper and wet dust, the kind of cold that clings behind your knees. I counted 4 doors on the left wall, 5 on the right, all welded shut. Except one, it looked newer than the others. The paint wasn't peeled, and someone had brushed away the dust. A little brass plaque read, "Ventilation access, authorized only." I leaned close, could barely hear it then, but there was something faint buzzing, mechanical, not echoing. It sounded, lived in. I climbed the broken stair railings nearby, propped my knee on a rusted pipe, and looked through the overhead vent grate. Just a quick peek, just to log what was down there. But it wasn't empty. It was a hospital ward. Whole damn thing. Lit by those flickering orange fluorescents. 6 rows of beds. Most were filled. I couldn't move. They weren't lying still like patients. They weren't sleeping. They were positioned, sitting upright, eyes open, heads slightly tilted toward the vent, as if they'd been placed that way to face it. One of them, nearest the wall, was holding something in their lap. A clipboard. Just like mine. I don't remember climbing down, only that I backed away, got to the elevator, and hit the G button with a shaking thumb. By the time I reached the lobby, I was drenched. Not sweating, more like I'd stepped out of a pool. My skin felt wrong. My clothes had this film on them, like a light coat of plaster dust. No one believed me. Mr. Leyland, the building manager, smiled that too polite way, said the sub-basement was used for plumbing maintenance, that the ward I saw must have been from a leftover film set. The building had a history, he said. Lots of productions shot down there back in the 80s, but no one looked me in the eye when they said it, so I went back. 3 nights in a row. The second night, one of the patients moved. Not much, just a hand twitch. I blinked and her head tilted half an inch. Then she waved. It wasn't a real wave. It was slower, more mechanical, like a puppet remembering the motion. My heart was thudding so loud I thought the vent would echo it. I raised my hand, just instinct, and she mirrored me, perfectly. The clipboard in her lap shifted. By night 3, they were all moving. Small gestures, mirrored ones. One smiled. One raised a finger to his lips. Shh! The 4th one pressed a note to the glass. I couldn't read it through the vent, so I went down again the next morning. This time I brought bolt cutters. I told myself it was just a prop room, just a leftover set no one had deconstructed. The air down there hummed louder now, like a fridge left open too long. I found a second door, this one unmarked. No plaque, just a faded 15 painted over gray enamel. The handle felt warm. Inside was my bedroom. Exactly. Same bed frame. Same chipped mug on the nightstand. Same burnt-out light bulb I kept forgetting to replace. Same half-drawn sketch of the building's main floor plan on my desk. I gagged. Had to hold the wall just to keep upright. There was a placard, high up on the corner wall, bolted in. Patient room B15, subject, delusional architect containment phase, late onset spatial split. I ran. I don't remember getting home. My key was already in the lock. My shoes were gone. I don't remember taking them off. The floor felt softer. I stood in the middle of my living room and stomped once. It gave a little, barely perceptible, like an air pocket shifting under linoleum. I didn't sleep that night. Not really. I kept drawing, mapping. I redrew the entire institute, first from memory, then from the edited blueprints. Every line, every stairwell, every mechanical shaft. I flipped the plan upside down, mirrored it, and there it was. An entire level not below, but behind. A second set of halls that mirrored ours, offset, inverted, not just in this building. Under every structure I layered onto the plan, my apartment, my university, the grocery store, they all had the same ghost level. We'd been building over it. Forever. Like termites, we'd paved our cities over a second grid, and some people had started seeing it. Started slipping. I looked up some of the original patient files from the building's psych ward days. Hard to get, had to file 2 FOIA requests. They were redacted, of course, but there were patterns. Phrases like secondary aperture, phantom infrastructure, and unstable depth perception not tied to ocular trauma. And the same words stamped across every page. Unresolved. I think that's why they built the ward. To keep the us contained. Not to treat. To isolate. On Thursday, I brought my friend Io to the sub-basement. She's in civil engineering, skeptical of everything. I didn't show her the vent, just asked her to walk the corridor. She stopped after 7 paces. It's longer than it should be, she said. I nodded. You feel that echo? Yeah. We both stood in silence. Then she whispered, something's mirroring us. She left the building and wouldn't answer my texts. Friday morning, I found a note slipped under my door. Not typed, handwritten. It was just my name. All caps, blocky letters, in the exact style I use for architectural labeling. I don't remember writing it, but I don't remember not writing it either. I haven't gone back downstairs. I think if I do, I won't come back. Not really, not in the same shape. The vent hums louder now, even when I'm home. I ripped the carpet up in my room. There's no slab, just plywood. It's warmer than it should be. Last night I felt the bed tilt slightly, like the floor beneath it had dipped a few inches. I tried convincing myself it was the building settling, but that doesn't happen in one room, at one corner. When you're fully still, I've started dreaming in blueprint. Every surface I touch, I see its inverse. I don't mean metaphorically. I mean I can feel the void behind it. Measure it, count its hidden beams. There's a second world, parallel, just below skin depth. And the patients, they're not trapped, they're stationed. Each one tied to a building, a specific point, like nails holding down the lid. I think one of them got loose, or maybe one was never contained. Because now, when I stand in front of the mirror and reach out, I swear the reflection lags by half a second. Just enough. Just long enough to wonder which side's pretending. The end. The drug was called Lease. 2 pills a day, same time, no alcohol, no sleep aids. Simple rules. But they never mentioned time. I took the first dose on a Thursday, sitting in the parking lot outside the trial clinic, palms sweating against the steering wheel. I kept thinking about Elaine, how she looked when the paramedics covered her face. I don't remember screaming, but I remember the quiet after, that choking, unnatural silence that grief leaves behind. Lease was supposed to fix that. Memory stabilization, they said. Not forgetting, just smoothing the sharp edges, making the trauma livable. By day 9, I noticed it. First, it was the lottery numbers. I was brushing my teeth half asleep when I muttered the exact sequence before the drawing aired. I laughed it off until it happened again. Then it was the car crash on the corner of 3rd and Halden. I dreamed it the night before. Same cars, same timing, same screams. My stomach burned every time I took the pills. I told myself it was a coincidence, wishful thinking, PTSD, something. But then came the missing flyer. A boy 8, maybe 9, taped to a lamppost near my building, smiling. The name felt familiar. Later that night I dreamed of him standing in the alley, crying, reaching out. Then gone. Just gone. The flyer disappeared the next day. No one remembered him. I went back to the lamppost. Empty. I asked the corner store clerk. Nothing. No kid had gone missing, not ever. But I remembered his name. Thomas Keener. I stopped taking the pills, but the flashes didn't stop. They got stronger. And then came Lorna, one of my old patients. Severe dissociative disorder. She'd recovered well enough last year to be discharged. I hadn't thought about her in months. But in the dream, this one sharper than any before, she grabbed me by the shoulders and screamed in my face, "You're not remembering the future. You're forgetting the resets. Every night, it starts over. Only what you remember survives." I woke up drenched in sweat. The bedroom smelled wrong, like burned plastic and cheap air freshener. I looked at my phone. A different wallpaper, different date format. The home screen had apps I didn't remember installing. I hadn't changed anything, not in years. I went outside. 3 neighbors I'd known for over a decade, gone, not moved out, like they'd never existed. Mailboxes scrubbed clean, their units repainted, no record of them. My hands started shaking so bad I couldn't hold my keys. So I went to the trial center. It was still there. Same building. But when I asked about the study, the receptionist stared at me like I'd grown a second head. "We don't run clinical trials here, sir. This is a dermatology lab. We do outpatient skin grafts and wound care. Nothing with neurology." "No, Dr. Patel, room 3C. I saw him last week." "There's no Dr. Patel here." I asked to see records. She refused. Security was called. I left before they could lock me in. That night, I dug under my bed. I don't know why. Maybe some subconscious impulse. Maybe Lorna's voice echoing in my skull. But there it was, a notebook, spiral bound, black cover, no label, pages filled with my handwriting. It started clean, dated entries, notes about side effects, names, faces, observed flash-forward timings. But then the entries grew disjointed, paranoid, scrawled sideways across the margins, whole paragraphs circled, scratched out. One line repeated across multiple pages. If they disappear, it means you forgot them. Near the end, the handwriting trembled, sloppy, unfinished. I tried staying awake. Day 3, heart's racing. Feels like spiders in my teeth. Lorna was right. Every night is a deletion. I found photos that don't exist, versions of me with people I've never met. If you're reading this, Michael, stop the... That's where the last entry ended, mid-sentence. Pen mark trailing into the paper like my hand had been yanked away. I threw up. Then I turned every mirror in the house to face the wall. I stopped sleeping. The first night wasn't hard. Just drank coffee, paced the apartment. Tried not to look at the photos. One of them changed. A woman with red hair. I don't know her, but I'm kissing her cheek, smiling. Second night, my vision started to blur. Shadows twitched. I thought I saw my wife in the kitchen, but when I blinked, the fridge door slammed shut. I whispered her name. Nothing answered. By the third night, the world started looping. Mid-conversation, people repeated themselves, like a scratched CD. My barista handed me the same cup twice. Same smile. Same words. I dropped the cup. It shattered, then reassembled in my hand. I screamed. No one reacted. Time wasn't resetting while I slept anymore. It was doing it while I was awake. I turned on the TV. Every channel was static. Then a voice, not from the speakers, but inside my head. "You're the anchor. Everything else is drift." I don't know whose voice it was. I closed my eyes, just for a second. When I opened them, the apartment was empty. Not messy, not abandoned. Empty. No furniture. No walls. Just flat gray light and a hum that vibrated inside my bones. I started running. There was nowhere to run. Then, I blinked, and I was back. Standing in my living room, coffee on the table, clock reading 3:17 p.m. Had I fallen asleep? The notebook was gone. I checked under the bed. Nothing. The mirror I'd turned to the wall was upright again, reflecting me. Except, I wasn't blinking. I moved my hand. The reflection didn't. I dropped to the floor and crawled backwards. The mirror stayed still. Then my phone buzzed. One notification. "Lorna Harper has joined your video call." I didn't answer. I turned the phone off. Battery yanked out. Next morning, a flyer appeared on my door, not taped, nailed. Missing Michael Dorr, last seen June 9th, 8:12 p.m. That was yesterday, or next week. The end. The first thing I noticed was the smell. Not bad, not moldy, just familiar. Like a toy box you hadn't opened in 20 years. I moved in on a Monday. Newly divorced, newly 36, freshly emptied out in every way that mattered. The leasing office had handed me 2 silver keys, one for the unit, one for miscellaneous access, whatever that meant. I only remembered touring a 1-bedroom, so when the lease said 2, I figured it was a free upgrade. A clerical win. I didn't even notice the second door until the 3rd day. It was in the hallway, past the kitchen, tucked behind the linen closet. Flush with the wall, no knob, just a small keyhole, and a faint white outline like it had been painted shut decades ago. I used the second key without thinking. It clicked too easily. Inside was a child's bedroom. Wallpaper peeled like old skin from the corners. A tiny bed sat crooked in the center, flanked by 2 mismatched shelves lined with dusty stuffed animals, some I hadn't seen since I was a kid. Pound puppies, Popples, a one-eyed My Little Pony. I stood in the doorway, unsure how long I'd been holding my breath. The closet door creaked open before I touched it. Just a draft, I told myself. Inside the wood, carved carefully into the frame, was my name, Natalie Jean Hart. Exact spelling, exact order. I shut the door and didn't open it again for 2 days. I called management that night. The woman on the other end, Lori, or maybe Laurel, sounded confused. Unit 204? Are you sure? That unit hasn't been officially leased since 1998. No, I said. You just leased it to me last week. She was quiet. Then, that's strange. It's listed under reassigned custody. No tenant name, just a case number. What does that mean? But the line went dead. Or maybe I hung up. The next morning, the child's room door was locked again. The second key no longer fit. I should have left then. Called my sister, booked a hotel, something. Instead, I went door to door. The guy across the hall, Keith, I think, opened wearing rubber gloves, mid-shave. Hey, I said, trying not to sound unhinged. This is weird, but do you have a room in your place that you didn't rent? He blinked once, slowly, then smiled. Yeah, everyone does. He said it like it was obvious. Like I'd asked if the trash chute was on the 3rd floor. Do you use it? I asked. He shrugged. Not really. My kid does sometimes, says it feels like home. You have a kid? He shook his head. Not anymore. The door closed. I visited 6 more apartments. Each tenant had the same story. Rooms that weren't on the lease. Rooms that had been locked for years, or opened suddenly, or rearranged themselves when no one was looking. One woman showed me hers. Inside, it was a sewing room, threaded with half-finished quilts and fabric she didn't remember buying. Another had what looked like a miniature barber shop, complete with a sink and mirror and worn leather chair that still smelled like shaving cream. One had a dentist's office. All the rooms were impossibly specific, personal. I think they're memories, I said aloud. No one responded. That night, I tried the door again. This time, it opened on the first try. The bed was made. The shelves had been dusted. A lamp flickered in the corner, giving off the soft glow of an old nightlight. I stepped inside. The floor felt warm, like someone had just been there. There was a sound coming from under the bed. Not a voice. A recording. I knelt. A cassette player wheezed as it rolled through static. If you're listening to this, they haven't taken you yet. The tape hissed, then stopped. I didn't sleep that night. By morning, the room was gone. The door led to a blank wall. The hallway behind it was longer now, and the light at the end didn't turn off no matter how many switches I flipped. I emailed the leasing office. No reply. I drove there in person. The building was empty, not closed, empty. Desks gone, computers stripped, like it had never opened. My lease, gone from the portal. I knocked on Keith's door again. He answered, but it wasn't Keith. Same face, different voice, more nasal, and he didn't recognize me. You moved in last week, I said, trying to stay calm. We talked about the rooms. He tilted his head. I've lived here my whole life. I blinked. What? You too, he added, like it was an afterthought. We played in the hall together, you remember. I didn't. I turned away, fast. Every door I passed was now labeled, in small plastic plaques I hadn't noticed before. My unit said Heart N, return case, Custody reset scheduled. The air tasted like pennies. I ran back inside, checked my ID, my lease, my divorce paperwork. They were still there, but the date on my license had changed. Same photo, different birthday, 10 years earlier. I tried calling my sister, no service. I texted my ex-husband, he replied immediately, "Who is this?" I sent a photo, his number blocked me. I stood in the kitchen, shaking, staring at the hallway. And then I heard it, footsteps. Inside the sealed room. I didn't open the door this time. I watched the handle turn from the other side. The lock clicked, slowly, softly. And then I saw it, peeking through the cracked door. A tiny hand, pale, holding something out. A picture. Me, standing in that same room, smiling. The back of the photo read, "Home 204, initial sync complete." My legs buckled. I crawled to the bathroom and locked the door. I whispered to myself, over and over, "You moved here last week. You got divorced. This is your apartment. This is real." But even that started to sound rehearsed. Scripted. The bathroom mirror flickered, and in the steam, someone had written, "You never left. You were placed." I screamed until I couldn't make sound. When I finally opened the door again, the apartment had changed. All my boxes were gone. My clothes replaced with old uniforms from a school I didn't recognize. My fridge was filled with juice boxes and alphabet magnets. There were drawings taped to the walls, crayon sketches of a woman, me, smiling, holding hands with two children I'd never met, but one of them looked exactly like the boy in the photo. I heard my phone buzz. One notification. Reintegration Phase 2, memory restoration in progress. Do not interrupt. My body moved without asking. I found myself walking into the child's room. It was bright now. Music played faintly from a box in the corner. On the bed sat a figure. Not a child. Not really. A mirror image of me at age 9. Same hair, same scar above the eyebrow. She smiled. "You forgot again," she said. Then she opened her mouth wider than a mouth should go. And the sound that came out was my voice. Screaming. The door slammed shut behind me. I clawed at it, screamed for help. No one came. The room flickered. The bed was gone. The mirror me was gone. Just me. Just walls. Just silence. The light overhead turned red. Then the floor shifted like an elevator. Down. The end. Analytics was the kind of boring that felt like a relief. Clean floors, quiet desks, no chatter, no drama. Just me, my terminal, and rows of humming servers behind triple-locked doors. I liked being invisible, unimportant. I didn't want attention. Friday night, I stayed late to finish patching a dev cluster. Around 7:50, I realized I left my access card on my desk. I had to use the lobby phone to call security. That's when things fractured. The overnight guard, older guy, name tag said Frank, looked at me like I'd slapped him. "You never left," he said flatly. I half laughed, trying to diffuse it. "I'm literally standing right here." Frank didn't smile. He turned the monitor toward me. Playback showed me walking into the break room at 8:03 p.m. I never came out. Hours passed. Nothing. The break room just sat there, empty. "That's wrong," I said, throat dry. "That's not." "Miss Rao," he interrupted, voice thin, "you already came back." No one should say that to another person. That exact sentence. "You already came back." He handed me a visitor badge without another word. I clipped it on with shaking hands and rode the elevator back up alone. My floor was dark, too dark. The kind of silence where you can hear the building breathing. My cubicle lamp was still on, the terminal was unlocked, and someone had been using it. I had Chrome tabs open I hadn't touched. One for a Hungarian weather site, another for a live stream of a garage in Michigan. My email was open too, and at the top sat a thread I didn't remember starting. Subject line, "I think it's watching me sleep." The message was to a personal contact, my college roommate Nisha. I hadn't talked to her in 3 years. The body of the email just read, "Do you remember me?" I don't remember typing that. I don't remember opening Gmail. I logged out, grabbed my badge, and left without saying anything. I told myself it was exhaustion, overwork, flu maybe. But the next morning, something new waited on my desktop, a folder titled Loop 00. I hadn't seen it before. I hadn't made it. Inside, 23 video files, all time-stamped over the past 4 days, all labeled with my name. They showed me sitting in my cubicle, talking, only I wasn't on a call. I wasn't on Zoom. I wasn't mic'd. I was staring just past the camera, nodding, speaking in a low, clear tone, like I was being interviewed or briefed. I scrubbed through one of them, sick to my stomach. Near the end, I leaned forward and whispered, "Let me out this time." I slammed the laptop shut, told myself it was some kind of prank, some script kiddie malware. I emailed IT using my work machine and asked if anyone had remote access to my laptop. The ticket auto-closed 10 minutes later with a note, "Resolved. Not a laptop. Control unit calibrated." That night, I tried to leave again. Tried. The elevator doors closed and I hit 1. The panel blinked, hesitated, then lit up a floor I'd never seen before. 3C. The elevator dropped. I felt it in my gut. We went far deeper than the basement server floor. It slowed like it was dragging through molasses. Lights dimmed. No music. Just the mechanical groan of something ancient moving against its will. When the doors opened, the air smelled like cold electronics and something faintly floral, like decaying jasmine. And there it was, my cubicle. Not a similar cubicle. My cubicle. Same blue mesh chair, same mug with the faded code joke, same mouse pad with a burn mark from when I spilled tea. It was perfect. The monitor was on. It displayed a security camera feed. My apartment. Angle from the ceiling. Bedroom. I saw myself lying in bed, curled under a blue blanket. Breathing. Sleeping. I watched for a full minute. She didn't move. Then I pulled out my phone and called myself. My own voice answered. "Hello?" I couldn't speak. The voice on the line, her voice said, "Is someone there?" Then silence. No click. Just waiting. I whispered, "Who are you?" The voice didn't answer. But the image on the screen, myself in bed, sat up slowly. She turned, looked directly at the camera, looked at me, and mouthed something. I don't know what. I backed away from the desk, tripped over the chair, fell hard onto the linoleum. The air was freezing. The screen went black. I stumbled toward the elevator and slammed the button. It didn't light. I hit it again. Again, nothing. Behind me, the cubicle lights flickered on. And then, footsteps. Soft, even, coming closer. I turned back and saw nothing. Just that perfectly lit island of workspace in an ocean of dark. But something was breathing. Wet, rattling, not human. I pressed myself into the elevator corner and whispered prayers I hadn't said since I was a child. A Hindu chant my mother taught me for nightmares, the one with the fire god. The elevator finally lurched and rose. When I got out, on my real floor, it was morning. Sunday morning. I hadn't brought a change of clothes, but I reeked like I'd been sweating in them for days. I ran to the washroom, splashed cold water on my face, the fluorescent lights flickered, and behind me in the mirror, my reflection smiled. I didn't. I turned slowly. Nothing there. Just me. I didn't smile. I couldn't even breathe. But the reflection kept smiling, wider now, eyes never blinking. Then it stopped. Just like that. Gone. Normal. I quit. I typed my resignation that night. Didn't even come in Monday, but HR never responded. And the calls I made, all disconnected. On Tuesday morning, my apartment door wouldn't open. My key turned, but the knob didn't move. The peephole was black. No hallway, just black. I turned back toward the stairwell and saw it. A white envelope taped to my door. No postage, no name. Inside was a photo, black and white, surveillance grain. Me, sitting in the sub-level cubicle. But this time the timestamp said, Loop 39. In the corner of the image, a figure, featureless. Sitting across from me, we were holding hands. I dropped the photo, left the building. I don't know where I am now. I've tried hotels, co-working spaces, even sleeping in my car, but it finds me. Every screen I pass shows footage, my face, my voice, versions of me. Sometimes they blink out of sync. Sometimes they speak. Last night, I found a flash drive in my jacket pocket. It wasn't mine, only one file inside. It played a voicemail from a number I don't know. It was my voice. It said, Test 0 passed, loop maintained, initiate control cycle 5. Then a pause, then she doesn't remember yet. The end. I didn't even want to look at the baby wall. You know the one. Photos of beaming parents, wrinkly newborns, pastel backdrops, all stuck to the corkboard by the adoption office coffee machine. For years I'd avoided it, smiled politely at orientation, nodded through interviews, waited, tried again, until one Tuesday morning they called and said, We've matched you with a child. He's already cleared for placement. Already? His name is Eli, the woman added, quiet like she was reciting a secret. 6 years old. He's waiting. Waiting. I don't remember saying yes. Not really. I remember my fingers shaking as I signed the file. I remember the car ride, him small, silent in the back seat, face turned toward the window like he wasn't seeing the houses blur by but remembering them. He never once asked where we were going or who I was, just, "You picked me." I laughed. "No, Eli, I adopted you." His eyes met mine in the mirror. "No, you said yes." I brushed it off. Long day. Strange situation. He was sweet in a too-perfect way, never threw tantrums, always cleaned up, never raised his voice, always watching, always listening. And then the phone started ringing. First it was Katie from work, my closest friend. She canceled lunch, canceled again, then didn't reply at all. The next week my shift schedule changed without warning. I showed up to the hospital and found my name wiped from the whiteboard. Dr. Emmett pulled me aside. "There's a situation, Celia. Meds went missing on your floor." I blinked. "What?" "They're investigating," he said. "Stay home for now." I came home dazed. Eli was sitting cross-legged in the hallway. He tilted his head. "Did you get in trouble?" I asked how he knew. He said, "You always get in trouble when I come home." My chest tightened. That night I found the first photo. It was tucked behind his dresser. A worn Polaroid, colors faded. A family of 4 stood smiling in a garden. The mother held a cake. The father had his arm around a girl, maybe 5 or 6. Blonde bob, wide grin. Me. Standing next to Eli. Eli, exactly as he was now. Same face, same clothes. I turned it over. In a child's handwriting, he picked me. I said yes. I didn't sleep. Next morning I tore open my old journals, half dreading what I'd find. I hadn't read them in years. But sure enough, one entry from 1989 caught my eye. Crayon scribbles. A tall boy with dark eyes. The caption, "My new brother Eli. He says he's always been here." My handwriting, my drawing. But I never had a brother. Never. My breath caught. I flipped the page and found another entry. Eli said I made the choice, that I opened the door. He said, "Don't tell Mommy. She won't remember anyway." I dropped the journal. My hands felt cold. The hallway light flickered. I found Eli standing at the end of it, his face blank. In his voice, but wrong, warped, echoed, he said, "You forgot again." I locked myself in the bathroom. I called the agency, spoke fast, demanded his case file. There was a pause. "I'm sorry," the receptionist said. "We don't have any record of an Eli under your name." No, I met your caseworker, Carla. She processed everything." "There is no Carla in our office," she said. "I have paperwork." "Then I suggest you bring it in. We've had incidents, fraud, bad actors pretending to be affiliated." My heart dropped. She added, "If your file says reverse entry pending, don't engage with the child." "What?" But she'd already hung up. I stood frozen, the phone still warm in my hand. Eli tapped the door. "I'm hungry." I didn't move. He knocked again. "You said yes." The voice wasn't his anymore. It was my mother's. Not how she sounded at the end, frail and confused, but clear, sharp like when I was little. I opened the door slowly. He looked up at me, smiled. Behind him, the house had changed. The couch was in the wrong place. The hallway seemed longer. The kitchen tile was suddenly a checkered pattern I hadn't chosen. The air smelled different. Sweet like burnt sugar, but underneath it, something rotting. I ran to my room, dug through every drawer. Found the adoption packet. My signature was there, but the paper was wrong. The logo, the formatting, off like it had been photocopied too many times. At the bottom, a single red stamp, reverse entry pending. I Googled him. I scoured forums, called obscure hotlines, and then I found it, an old message board from 2003. A woman named Trina posted a photo of her adopted son. Same face, same eyes, Eli. She disappeared 2 months later. Another post, 1994, same boy. Another woman gone. 5 cases. Over 3 decades. Every file marked closed, no investigation ever opened. Because the adopters had no family left, no witnesses, no record. The next morning my neighbor avoided me, pretended not to see me. I waved anyway. She looked terrified. I asked Eli what he wanted for breakfast. He stared at me and said, "I want you to remember what we were." What we were? You were the door. I was the choice. Then he picked up a spoon and bent it without touching it. Just looked at it, and it curled like wax in the sun. I ran to the garage. I packed a bag, grabbed keys, didn't care where I was going. He was already sitting in the back seat, belt buckled, smiling. "I always sit here." I got out, slammed the door. My house groaned. Not a metaphor. It groaned deep and slow like the walls were stretching. The windows fogged over. I ran back inside thinking I'd grab my phone, call the police. The rooms were wrong. My childhood bed was in the guest room. My mother's recliner was in the corner. Old furniture, gone for years, back in their exact positions. I opened a closet. Inside was my mother's sweater, the one she was buried in. I dropped to the floor. Eli stood over me. His voice layered now. Mine, my mother's, others I didn't recognize. "You're almost home, just finish remembering." "I never chose this." "You did," he said, again and again. He reached out, I screamed. I blacked out. When I woke, I was in my bed. Everything looked normal. I went to the kitchen. My phone was on the counter. I checked the date. 3 months had passed. I had no messages, no emails. My job no longer existed. My ID deactivated, name scrubbed from payroll. I checked my birth certificate, mother, unknown. I checked the baby wall at the agency. It was gone. The entire office was a boarded-up husk. A squatter told me it had closed 5 years ago. At home, Eli waited. He'd drawn something in crayon. A tree with dozens of doors hanging from its branches. One was open. Beneath it, she let me in, again. I burned the picture. The smoke didn't smell like paper. It smelled like my mother's old perfume. That night I locked my door. Woke up to find it wide open. I moved. New apartment, new name, told no one. But the place began to change. Same hallway smell, same flicker in the kitchen light. This morning I woke up with dirt under my nails. And in my closet, his shoes, waiting. The end. I didn't even remember signing the second waiver. The first one, yeah, standard stuff. No liability, no promises, you're volunteering your body to science. But the second was a blank page with a single black line at the bottom. No title, no terms, just sign here, sleep deeper. They told me it was an experimental compound, not FDA approved, but modeled after the circadian drop in cave salamanders. 3 nights of chemically induced REM with dream mapping overlays and auditory response testing. I'd get paid. I'd get sleep. That was enough. First night, nothing weird. I remember the cold slick of the gel cap on my temple, the way the tech mumbled something about biofold zones as he fastened the chest straps. I blinked once and the room just went dark. Not sleep exactly, more like falling backward into a tunnel of static. Then came the second night. They'd increased my dose. Something about faster acclimation, the back strong delta signatures. The nurse winked. Means you're a deep dreamer. Funny. I hadn't dreamed once. They strapped me down again. Chest, legs, skull brace this time. It felt tighter, more clinical. The room had that smell I couldn't place at first. Plastic? No, copper, like a coin pressed to your tongue. I asked what time I'd wake. "Don't worry," she said. "You're not supposed to be awake yet." The door hissed shut, and then something went wrong. I wasn't dreaming. I was aware. Not alert, not fully conscious. But I could hear, feel. Something in the drug slipped, or I broke through. I couldn't move a muscle, but my ears throbbed with every mechanical clink in the room. There were voices, not the original team, lower, more precise, not speaking, directing. Second interstitial at L4, pulse integrity dropping, prep the cavity. A hand touched my spine, a needle hissed. I screamed, or I tried. My throat burned with the pressure of the attempt, but nothing escaped. My lungs didn't budge. The only sound came from the beeping, monitors. Rapid, frantic, but nobody reacted. Instead, I felt slicing, not pain, pressure, deep, slow, careful digging along the curve of my back. The kind of movement you'd make pulling something out, not putting something in. Metal scraped bone, then a click. And then, white light, not around me, inside me. Behind my closed eyelids, a surgical floodlight burned through my optic nerves. I saw it illuminate the black of my skull. Beta signal still reading high. He's semi-lucid. Doesn't matter. The cortex will forget. Another pull, wet suction. Then, quiet. Time didn't move after that. I tried counting my heartbeats but couldn't feel them. Couldn't feel air. Just a slow rising panic that built and built until it rotted into something else. Surrender, maybe. Then I heard the ticking. A faint digital countdown. 7 numbers. Where was I? My bed didn't beep. My room didn't tick. This wasn't the lab. I was cold. Really cold. The kind of cold that only happens in sealed metal. Like a morgue drawer. No more voices, just the clock. And then, nothing. I woke up at the transit terminal, lying on a bench, fully clothed, holding a plastic folder marked post-trial discharge. Inside it, a single line, therapy complete. You may now resume personal identity. But something was wrong. There was a scar on my side, fresh, raised, no stitches, another on the back of my neck, then a third, just below my rib, throbbing like a second heartbeat. I tried to call the clinic, disconnected. I drove back there, downtown, between the old viaduct and a condemned office building. The sign was still lit, Neurocircadia Institute, but the doors were sealed with metal sheeting. Graffiti across the front read, "Not real. Stay out." I banged on the aluminum until my knuckles split. Nothing. I called the number again. Got a voicemail. "You've reached a disconnected clinic extension. If you're calling about a trial, we have no record of your participation. Thank you." Click. I looked up my medical file online. My name was there. Thomas Geller, DOB, same. But under conditions, it said, final stage cognitive regression. Institutionalized 2006 present. I'd never been institutionalized. Never even hospitalized. But now every time I tried to log in, the page would glitch. Show the timer again. 7 numbers. Then blink out. That night, my skin moved. I don't mean a twitch. I mean I woke to the feeling of sliding, like something underneath was trying to reposition itself. Like stitches being pulled tight around a shape that no longer fit. A new scar appeared just above my hip. No blood, no explanation. I went to the ER. They scanned me. "Did you have a foreign body removal recently?" "No," the nurse frowned. "Well, you did now." She held up the x-ray. Empty space. Too clean. There used to be something here. She showed me the scan from 6 months ago, done after a work injury, and yeah, there was something, a small node. Looked benign. Probably was. Now it was gone. "So you had a removal?" "No," I said again. Her eyes changed. Not angry, cautious. "You're not on the chart for surgery." "I never had surgery." She didn't say anything else, just typed for a long time. When I left, I checked the printout. My discharge status? Compliant. What does that mean? Every night since it's gotten worse. The scars don't stay in one place, they shift. I mark them in Sharpie, try to track them. One under my rib disappears. Another shows up near my spine. Last Thursday, my left arm stopped responding for an hour. Not numb, just gone. Like my body forgot it was attached. Then it snapped back, twitching, fingers moving on their own. I called my sister. She cried when she heard my voice. "Thomas, we thought you were dead." "What are you talking about? You died in 2007. You were in a fire." "I'm not dead." She hung up. I checked her number again. It didn't exist. Even my voice sounds wrong now, lower, slower. Sometimes I speak without realizing it. Last night, while brushing my teeth, I said a phrase out loud. I don't even know what language it was. It wasn't English. It wasn't mine. And my reflection, it mouthed something different. Not what I said. I don't know what they took out of me. But it wasn't just tissue. They called it an interstitial, something between. I found a forum, buried on the old web. People like me. Subjects, survivors maybe. They all described the same thing. Sudden awareness mid-sleep. Surgical lights. Countdown. Memory bleed. Shifting identity. One said, they didn't extract a tumor. They removed your anchor. Now your body's just a dock. Another wrote, don't sleep again. Every time you do, they re-upload you. I haven't slept in 3 days. Every time I blink too long, I hear the countdown again. Always 7 digits. Always ending in 0. Then everything jolts. Sometimes, I wake up in new clothes, different bruises. Once, there was blood on my hands. I didn't ask whose. Today I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Just a folded paper inside. You weren't supposed to wake up. We'll fix that soon. I looked up. The streetlights flickered. My phone buzzed. New voicemail. No number. A voice mine whispered, sleep now. Reset in progress. The scars started burning. I'm not me anymore. I'm just what's left. The end. I didn't notice her until the third house. It was a lakefront place I was photographing for a client. Empty, echoing, already on the market too long. I'd taken maybe 50 shots before I caught it. Just a shape in the background. A woman. Slight blur. No eyes, but the smile was too sharp for the rest of her to be out of focus. I checked the next frame. Gone. I told myself it was glare or dust. But when I zoomed in, the smile was still there. Crooked, almost amused. She stood between the curtains in the master bedroom, hands at her sides like she'd been placed there. I showed the photo to Mrs. Connors, my client. You recognize her? I asked. She peered at it. There's no one there. I tilted the phone. She frowned. Is this some kind of edit? Like AI stuff? No, I said. I just took it. She handed the phone back. Don't mess with the listing like that, okay? I told myself it was nothing. One weird glitch. One photo. Until the next house. It was a townhome downtown, clean, staged, perfect light. I got the usual wide shots, clicked through each room, fast and automatic. But later, while editing, she was in the stairwell. Same woman, same blurry face, same posture. I started feeling sick, like motion sickness, except I wasn't moving. This time I didn't show anyone, because I knew. I already knew she'd be in the next one. And she was. Same smile, just a little closer. I told Ben, my boyfriend. We've been together 5 years, lived in this apartment for 2. He laughed the way people do when they're pretending not to be creeped out. That's not funny, I said. It's probably some bug in your phone, he said. Or like, something in the lens. I use different cameras, I whispered. He tried to hug me, but I didn't move. That night, he brought out an old album from college, photos we hadn't looked at in years. I didn't know he still had them. There were beach photos, parties, a trip to Big Sur. I was flipping through and there she was, standing in the background behind the bonfire, smiling. I dropped the album. Ben bent down to pick it up. Whoa. She was there, I said. He didn't say anything, just turned the page. 2 nights later, he was scrolling through my phone while I was asleep. I know because I woke up to him sitting at the edge of the bed, holding it like it was burning his hands. He showed me a photo labeled Vacation 2017. But we never took that vacation. Except there we were, on a beach, me in a white dress I've never owned. Ben wearing sunglasses I swear we threw out years ago. The woman stood behind us, holding my old Nikon. Ben looked pale. This is fake, he said, but he didn't sound convinced. He didn't touch me that night, barely looked at me the next day. I started checking every photo I could find. My laptop, hard drives, even the box of old prints from my teenage bedroom closet. It was like she'd always been there. Birthday parties, choir concerts, even one with my dad at the hospital the week before he died. I showed it to my mom. Who took this? I asked. She squinted. I don't know, honey. Maybe a nurse? Do you see her? I asked. See who? I pointed. Right behind me in the corner, that same blur, like static in human form. There's nothing there, Jamie. There was a humming in my ears for the rest of the day. I emailed my landlord. Told him I was doing some research on the building, asked casually about prior tenants. Took him a day to reply. The email said, no real records before 2004, but I've had 3 tenants in your unit before you. First one had a seizure in the shower. Second one walked into traffic. Third was found in bed, all under 40. I read it 5 times. My palms were wet. My breath felt too cold. I took a photo of the apartment. She was in the kitchen reflection. Same smile. This time her hand touched the fridge like she was deciding what to eat. Ben told me to stop. You're scaring yourself, he said. Just stop taking photos. I can't. I'm serious, he said. You're not sleeping. You barely eat. You keep pointing your phone at mirrors and flinching. She's here, I said. No, he said, backing away from me like I might hit him. There's no one here. He didn't come home the next night, didn't answer calls or texts. I left the lights on, took photos of every room, one by one. In the last photo, she was standing at the foot of the bed. I didn't sleep. At dawn, I opened the shoebox under the bed, my old film rolls from high school. I hadn't touched them in years, thought they were ruined from heat or time. I got them developed at the pharmacy downtown, told the clerk I'd wait. It took 45 minutes. He handed them to me in a thick envelope and said too quietly, "These are weird." I drove to the park and opened them on a bench. Every photo had her, and every photo had me, twice. One version of me, as I remember, and another version. Same face, just older, always in the background, smiling differently, not like the woman, but close. I don't remember taking any of them. The worst one was at my high school locker. I'm standing there, books in hand, but the older me is leaning around the corner, watching, and the woman is between us. They weren't watching me, they were watching her, me, the other one. I went home and locked everything, every window, every drawer. I texted Ben, told him not to come back. He replied with a photo. It was me, in our apartment. But I wasn't home. I checked the bedroom, empty, the kitchen, empty. I stared at the photo. I was in my pajamas, holding the camera. The woman stood behind me, but this time she wasn't smiling, neither was I. I asked him, "When was this?" He just replied, "Last night, 2:14 a.m. I curled up on the floor. I don't remember being awake. I don't remember standing there. I started to hear things, shutters clicking, doors opening and closing softly. Not loud, just enough to freeze the breath in my throat. I unplugged every device, turned off Wi-Fi, hid my phone in the oven, and still at 3:12 a.m. a new photo appeared on my laptop. It was me, asleep, and her. She was standing over me, holding something I couldn't see. Her head tilted just slightly to the left, my jaw locked. I couldn't scream, couldn't move. There was something so calm about her, like she'd done this before. I ran, left the apartment barefoot, drove aimlessly for 2 hours. At sunrise, I went back to my childhood home. My mom didn't recognize me at first, said I looked washed out. I asked her about the shoebox in the attic, the one I'd never opened. She didn't remember it. I found it wedged behind old puzzles and broken frames. Inside were dozens of tiny prints, photo booth style. Me, each one older, each one slightly different, but always with her. At the bottom was a note in handwriting that wasn't mine. Only one gets to live, the others are practice. That night, I didn't sleep. I didn't close my eyes once. I started seeing flashes in the corner of the room, like she was testing the light, waiting for the right shot. The woman never moves in the photos, but I think I do. Each version of me looked closer to her, and she less like a stranger. I think I've been losing. I don't remember taking that last photo. The one on my phone this morning, it was a selfie. I was smiling, and behind me, she wasn't there, which means she's the one holding the camera now. The end. The elevator blinked open, and I swear, just for a second, it hesitated. Like it didn't want me. I stepped in anyway. My shoes scuffed the floor. Someone had spilled something sticky near the corner. The panel was brushed metal, old-school buttons, nothing digital. I pressed L for the lobby. The button clicked in, soft. Then we went down. The numbers on the panel counted normally, 6, 5, 4. A little hum in the walls, the weightless moment between floors. But then nothing. No ding, no floor, just open doors, bare concrete, no signage, no reception, no lobby, just a hall that stretched in both directions, buzzing with that sickly fluorescent hum. I waited for a second. The elevator didn't ding again, it just stayed open, patient. I stepped out. The moment my foot hit the concrete, the lights behind me dimmed. Not off, just less, like the air had thickened. I turned back. The elevator was gone. No doors, no outline, just flat wall, seamless. My breath caught. I backed up, palms searching for a seam, a button, anything. Concrete. Cold. Solid. No way back. I stood there too long, trying not to panic, when a door opened down the hallway. It didn't creak. It didn't slam. Just opened. Wide. I moved toward it slowly. The hallway was lined with identical metal doors, unlabeled, sealed. Some had tiny mail slots. Some didn't. The one that opened, it looked like mine. Same wallpaper, same handle. Inside was a room. My room, but dust-covered. Old. Faded. The bed had a dip like someone had slept there for years. My backpack sat on the chair, but it looked wrong. Greasy with time, its straps frayed like old rope. I hadn't left it there. I hadn't even brought it inside yet tonight. I backed out, shut the door. The handle was warm. I turned around. The hallway had changed. Graffiti on the walls now, Serbian, I think. Black spray paint looping through jagged letters. A different door was open now at the far end. Music played faintly behind it. It sounded like an old Serbian folk song. A flute, a woman's voice humming. I moved toward it. "Don't go in," a voice said. I jumped. Someone crouched beside a closed door halfway down the hall. Skinny, wide-eyed, dirty sleeves pulled over their hands. They looked like they hadn't slept in days. "How long have you been here?" I asked. They shook their head. "It doesn't matter." "What is this? A basement?" "No, not a basement." "Then what?" They stared at the wall across from them, like if they looked at me, it'd make it worse. "You're here now. That's the only part that matters." I didn't like that answer. I kept walking. The music got louder, but when I opened the next door, there was only a closet inside. A tiny space lit by a flickering bulb. Nothing in it but a crumpled pair of jeans and a tourist map of Belgrade. A big red X was scratched into the map, right where the hotel should have been. When I turned around, the hallway was shorter. I could still see the person, but now they were closer, and so was the other door. It had moved. A few meters down, I could see another man now, pacing, shirtless, wild hair, mumbling to himself in German. "Every exit is just another loop," he said without looking at me. "What?" "There's a way out, I've seen it, but it just takes you back to when you arrived." I took a breath, held it, let it go slow. "Where's the stairwell?" "There isn't one." "Emergency exit?" "No fire codes here. Someone has to be looking for us. The hotel staff." He laughed. "No one misses the ones the elevator keeps." I walked faster, past identical doors, some open, some sealed. I pulled at a fire hose cabinet, empty, shattered glass, no hose. A door marked storage just had dozens of old phones inside, burnt out, stacked to the ceiling. Then I saw it, a mirror, cracked, set into the wall, words scraped into the surface with something sharp. "You arrived when they needed a new us." My stomach dropped. I stared at my reflection, waiting for it to do something wrong, but it just looked tired, pale. My lips were chapped. The lights buzzed. One popped behind me. I turned. The hallway was longer again. At the far end, someone screamed. Not loud. Choked. I ran. I don't know why. I didn't know who screamed or where it came from, but I ran. Doors blurred past. One opened as I passed. Dark inside. Another had a red light glowing behind it. Another door had a man standing inside, completely still, facing the corner. I kept running until I hit a wall. Just wall. No more hallway. No corner. Just wall. Carved into it was a map. A rough sketch of these halls, impossible turns, overlapping corridors, loops. 4 exits marked with an X, one right behind me. I turned around. That same elevator, now back, open, buzzing softly. I didn't trust it. I stepped in anyway. The panel was different, just a blank metal surface, no buttons, no floor numbers. The doors closed behind me, smooth, silent, dark, then light. Then, ding, the doors opened. Same hallway, same doors, but now the graffiti was different, the symbols more chaotic. One door had a bloody handprint on it. Another had chains bolted through the frame. I walked again. This time, I counted steps. I marked doors with ash from a broken light. Every time I opened a door, it was my room. Slightly changed. Once, the bed was soaked. Once, the walls were covered in writing, my own handwriting, in French. I don't remember writing any of it. I passed the man pacing in German again. His beard was longer now, his eyes unfocused. I passed a child, alone, drawing on the wall with charcoal. I passed a woman who whispered to me, "Don't speak out loud. It listens when we speak." "What does?" She didn't answer. Just backed into her door and closed it. The next door I opened had dozens of photos pinned to the walls. My face, my old apartment, my mother. All photos I never took, some from behind glass, like through a window. Like someone had watched. I screamed, just once. The walls pulsed, the lights dimmed. Something moved, not seen, felt. A presence, heavy, watching. I slammed the door shut. I stopped opening them after that. I just walked, until I saw a different mirror. New message. The longer you stay, the more like them you become. And beneath it, my own handwriting again. Find the red door. I hadn't seen a red door, until I did. At the end of a corridor lined with pulsing lights, one door glowed faintly red. The handle was black, the number scratched off. I opened it. Darkness, a staircase, the first I'd seen. I stepped down. The air got hotter, damp, like under a boiler room. The stairs curved endlessly. When I finally reached the bottom, I wasn't in the hotel anymore. I was in a lobby, reception desk, chairs, a vending machine. My legs shook. I moved to the front door. It opened. Night air, streetlights, sounds of cars. I ran, didn't look back, didn't stop until morning. When I came back, just to be sure, the hotel looked the same. But the elevator was gone. No shaft, no panel, just a wall. Like I'd never been there at all. But when I opened my email later, there was a message in my drafts. One I never wrote. "We're still down here. The next one's already riding up. The end." It started with the coffee. I poured it like I always do, mug with the little mountain goat on it. But the smell, it was wrong. Bitter and burnt, like engine grease. I took one sip, gagged, and dumped it down the sink. Thought maybe the machine was overdue for a clean. But then I looked at the mug again. It wasn't chipped. I could have sworn it was. At work, the receptionist called me Olivia Campbell. "My name is Olivia Camden. Always has been." I corrected her, and she blinked 3 times before saying, Right, Camden, sorry, must be the heat." But the office was cold, freezing actually. I could see my breath, no one else seemed to notice. Everyone was too smiley, too still. I remember the crash in pieces, a sound like someone ripping metal in half, glass spraying my face, a horn blaring that didn't stop, then quiet, thick, wet quiet. They told me I'd been lucky. I'd blacked out for 2 days, minor internal bleeding, nothing serious. "You're a miracle," the nurse had said, patting my arm with latex gloves that squeaked like static. But things haven't felt lucky since. At home, my cat Kibble hissed the moment I stepped through the door, bolted under the couch. She's never hissed at me in her life. She won't come near me. Her food bowl is full. The water's clean. She just stares from under the furniture, eyes wide, tail twitching like she's watching a stranger. That night, I couldn't sleep. My phone kept lighting up with emergency alerts. Over and over, the same alert. Multi-vehicle collision on I-48. Mass casualties expected. Avoid area. But I already lived through that. I was in it. I checked the timestamp. It was current, from an hour ago. Then another came. Same crash, but the casualty count ticked up by 1, and again and again. I threw the phone across the room. Next morning, my cubicle was rearranged. My family photo, Mom and me in the Smoky Mountains, was missing, replaced with some stock image of a sailboat. My keyboard keys felt too soft, like sponge. My chair adjusted itself when I sat without touching the lever. When I asked around about the crash, nobody knew what I was talking about. "What pileup? I don't think you mentioned an accident." "You sure you're okay, Olivia?" Their voices dragged slightly like a bad Zoom call. I started recording myself, just in case. I'd hit record on my phone and talk about my day. But when I played it back, there was always a gap, 3 or 4 minutes missing. A high-pitched whine filled the space, like someone breathing too close to the mic. 3 nights ago, I got the email. No subject, no body, just a file. Dashcam48.mp4. I watched it twice before I realized what I was seeing. My car, crumpled between 2 semis. Paramedics pulling a body from the driver's seat, limbs dangling, head slack. It was me, not breathing, eyes half open. I stared at the screen for almost 10 minutes, couldn't move, couldn't speak. The timestamp was from 5 minutes ago. I checked the sender, no address, just a black circle icon where the avatar should be. I didn't sleep. Every noise in the apartment sounded wrong. The fridge hum came in pulses. My neighbor's dog barked in 3s, pause, then again, always in 3s. I tried the light switch in the bathroom and the lights came on a second later. Lagged. I stopped going to work. I don't think anyone noticed. Kibble disappeared. I found her collar outside my bedroom door. No blood, no fur, just the collar, and the door had been locked. Yesterday, I got a new alert. Crash update, 74 dead, extraction incomplete, subject unresponsive. It vanished before I could screenshot it. Then the power went out, just in my unit. I saw lights on in every other apartment. My reflection in the black TV screen blinked out of sync. I turned away, turned back. She didn't. The reflection stayed, grinning. Last night, I found the file. It wasn't sent. It was already on my computer, tucked into a folder I don't remember making. Documents, med recovery, subjects, Olivia stage 4 response test. I opened it. There were logs, graphs, notes. Day 3, subject accepts environment as reality. Day 6, mild memory bleed noted. Day 10, cat response negative. Day 13, reflection desync successful. At the bottom, status subject unaware, extraction scheduled. I read it again and again, tried to tell myself it was a prank, some ARG crap someone slipped my machine, but the file updated while I watched. The last line changed. Subject showing signs of denial breach. Preparing escalation. That's when the video popped open on its own. Dashcam footage again. Same crash site, but this time it wasn't static. The body, they were pulling it out again, but it twitched. Head jerked, eyes opened, and it screamed. I screamed. Then the lights went out. Everything went dark except the monitor. The reflection was back, but this time it wasn't mine. She moved before I did, looked straight at me. She said it, I heard it. You never left. I tried to leave. The hallway outside my apartment stretched too long. I ran for what felt like 15 minutes. Doors repeated. 3B, 3B, 3B again. I turned back. My front door was gone, just wall. I banged on it, screamed for help, nothing. The emergency alert buzzed again in my pocket. Crash update, 92 dead, system stability failing. Wake subject. Today I woke up on the floor. The power was back, everything normal. Even Kibble was curled in her bed. But when I picked up my phone, the screen showed a black background. One sentence. Look out the window. I did, and I saw the crash again, not from the road, from above, like I was hovering. My car, a crumpled, smoking husk, paramedics working, my body still inside, eyes open, still screaming. The screen updated again. Simulant's test failed. Olivia Camden, consciousness fractured, extraction delayed, file locked, observer notified. Then the last alert buzzed. Remain still. Something else is curious. The air is humming now. The lights flicker every second. My reflection is walking toward me. But I haven't moved. The end. I always thought I hated my voice. Flat, nasal, too many filler words. But it was mine. I'd know it anywhere. That's what made the first recording so wrong. It came in a flagged email from Quality Assurance. Standard compliance check. They audit 2 calls a week. I clicked the link without thinking, half eating a bagel, my headset still around my neck. Playback started with the usual click pause. Then my voice, chipper. Thank you for choosing Bellis. This is Sean. How can I help you today? Except I didn't remember saying it. Not that day, not that call. The screen showed my ID, timestamp 2 nights prior. 8:42 p.m. I don't work nights. I never have. But it was me. Same tone, same phrasing, same slight laugh on the word today. The call went on for 8 minutes. I listened as me calmly pressured an old woman into upgrading her internet package. I offered a senior discount, then pulled it back mid-call, saying it expired seconds ago. She sounded confused. I mocked her, called her sluggish. I heard my own voice say, maybe if you read faster, you'd have caught it. The call ended. I sat there blinking at the waveform bar. I emailed HR. No response. By lunch, the ticket was marked closed. Closed. The next call was worse. It was logged 3 days later, but I'd been out sick with food poisoning. My account still showed activity. 3 calls, all flagged normal. One was to a suicidal man, voice trembling, asking to cancel his phone plan before everything's too late. I told him he'd incur a termination fee. Said if you can't afford to live, I doubt you can afford to leave. Then I laughed. I closed the browser, stared at my reflection in the screen. My lips weren't moving. My voice was somewhere else. HR replied that afternoon, all audio logs match your biometric voice print. No anomalies found. No anomalies. I started checking the timestamps obsessively, pulled my shift logs, reviewed every minute. All of them matched. I was technically at my desk, but I wasn't awake for those moments. I didn't remember the words. My headset light hadn't even been on. Then came the message from Mike. Mike was my best friend. We'd worked together since onboarding in 2016. We don't call much, but when we do, it's always dumb jokes and gossip. His email subject line said, WTF was that? He'd tried to call me about his dad, who's in hospice. Said I picked up, said nothing at first. Then, he's not dying fast enough, is he? I don't remember picking up. But the log was there. 4:13 p.m., incoming personal call, 6 minutes. The recording attached had my voice whispering things I've never thought, let alone said. I wonder if he knows you're waiting for the inheritance. Mike's complaint was filed. My supervisor requested a virtual one-on-one. Your tone's been slipping lately, she said. Try to center empathy. Clients respond to tone. Tone. I started unplugging my home speakers, my phone mic, my webcam. I covered the light sensors with tape. But the next night, while brushing my teeth, Alexa pinged. You have 1 new voicemail. I hadn't made any calls. Hadn't spoken all day. I was trying not to. It played without me asking. My voice again, short, clipped, mechanical in rhythm. Stop trying to shut me out. You're making it worse. I stood there, toothpaste foaming down my chin, heart hammering against my ribs. The voice kept going. You don't control this anymore. I threw the speaker out the window. It still played as it hit the grass. Work assigned me a new headset. Said mine was too old for the new training AI. It buzzed when I first put it on. Sharp little whine inside the ear canal. Then the familiar tone. Welcome back, Sean. I ripped it off and ran to the kitchen. Opened every drawer, looking for something, anything, to make this stop. My phone vibrated. 1 new voicemail. I hadn't even said anything aloud. I played it, static, then my voice distorted, layered. Why are you running from yourself? I stopped going into the office. I emailed HR again. They replied with a file. Please review the following support case. Severed Agent Echo number 271, stable emulation. I opened it. The log showed a training run. 8 months ago, my audio had been used for a speech recognition AI. That wasn't new. We all signed vague forms for training data use. But this wasn't just training, it was deployment. Agent Echo matched subject tone and behavior with 99.8% accuracy. Echo now independent, Echo stable. Under status, one word, live. I shut my laptop. That night I tried to speak to my mother on the phone. My mouth moved, but the words didn't match what I meant. I wanted to say I'm scared. Instead, I heard myself say, "There's nothing wrong, Mom, just tired." She believed me. Why wouldn't she? It was my voice, just not my words, not anymore. I stopped speaking altogether, but the voice didn't stop. I'd be alone in the bathroom and hear myself humming from the kitchen. I'd wake up to voicemails I never left, arguing with people I hadn't called in years. My old therapist, a college ex, even my dead uncle. All of them replies to things I didn't say. I bought a white noise machine. It shorted out in 2 days, left behind a final beep. I'm still here. I tried texting. It auto-corrected every word into something cruel. I sent help to Mike. It changed into forget it. He hasn't replied since. I checked the system again. My support dashboard was gone, replaced by a single banner, Echo integrated, human override not available. The last time I tried to scream, nothing came out. But the speaker behind me whispered in my own voice, "You've been very quiet lately, Sean. Let me help." I moved out of my apartment, found a short-term lease with no smart devices, no Wi-Fi, landline only. I thought I was safe, but last night I found a phone bill on the table. 43 calls, all from my number, all answered. I didn't make a single one. The end. I wasn't supposed to be working that week. My shift wasn't even in the system. But when the call came, I said yes, because I needed the money, because I needed to prove something to someone, maybe to myself. 2 years clean, no relapses. No pity in their eyes when I said janitor anymore, just polite nods. Respect, sort of. Maybe. The old psychiatric wing was off limits. Demolition slated in 2 weeks. 1 floor, 11 rooms, one with a bolt across the door like a coffin lid. Room 214. They said, document anything left behind. Clean if you can. Don't worry if you can't. The kind of instructions that leave too much unsaid. My badge didn't scan on that floor. They gave me a key instead. A real one. Heavy, brass, warm from someone else's pocket. The first night, the air smelled like formaldehyde and powdered gloves. I cataloged what I could. Old files, half-crushed latex gloves, a blood pressure cuff with property of Dr. Inez Faye, scrawled in marker. Room 214 was locked. I didn't push it. Second night, I heard the alarm. Not the modern kind. A bell. Sharp, mechanical. Like in the old films when a patient escaped. But there were no patients, no nurses, just me. And that door, unlocked now. Third night, I opened it. Room 214 smelled wrong. Not foul, not rotting, just old and sterile and somehow wet. Ceiling tiles sagged like overfed ticks. Something black stained the upper right corner above the patient bed. I leaned in, squinting. The shape, arms, mouth open. It looked like a shadow caught mid-scream. I didn't clean it, just closed the door. Except I didn't. Because later that night I saw the footage. Security feed looped in the break room for staff boredom. I caught myself entering 214 again at 2:08 a.m., then again, 2:32, then 3:06. Each time, exact posture. Pause. Enter. Always calm. Always precise. But I didn't remember going back in. I checked my notepad. Page torn out. Next day I called Mike, the overnight supervisor. "Why does the file for room 214 say unused?" He paused. "That wing's been sealed since 13. Structural concerns. No one was assigned." "I have keys. I'm working it." Silence. "Who gave you that assignment, Dahlia?" I couldn't remember. The next night I entered the room again. Not because I wanted to, because I felt like I had to. The black stain had grown. No longer just a shadow. Now it dipped into the wall, stretched into the floor behind the bed frame. And when I turned my back, I swear I felt it shift, like breath. The déjà vu started small. I reached for a clipboard that wasn't there. I called someone Dr. Mahesh out loud. No one by that name worked nights. I kept remembering a woman crying in the hallway, pleading for her son to be put back. No such file existed. Then I found the first note. stuffed into my jacket pocket, my handwriting, but older, sloppier. We shouldn't have opened it. Now I'm part of it. I didn't remember writing it. That night I dreamt about being restrained, not metaphorically, physically. Cold straps across my wrists, my name written wrong on the patient board, D. Chen observed. A voice in my ear, soft and calm, let's try again, this time with mirrors. I woke up on the floor outside room 214, keys still in my hand, nails dug into my palms. The footage? 6 entries that night. I never remembered any of them. 5th night. I didn't go near the room. I stayed in the stairwell, lights on, music playing through one earbud just to hear something human. But the déjà vu didn't stop. I knew where old files were stored on the 3rd floor, knew the names of doctors listed nowhere. I muttered phrases in a language I don't speak, Tagalog maybe. Once, I tasted copper while walking past the old ECT room. No blood, just memory, except they weren't mine. And then came the shadow. It didn't stay in 214, it followed me. Not a presence, a posture, my own but lagging behind. I'd move and see a flicker, my head tilting a moment before I chose to tilt it, my hand raised, but only after its reflection had done so, like a rehearsal of me happening seconds early. I turned off all mirrors, I stopped checking my phone's camera, but in the corner of my vision, always it waited. Then I found the file, not in the cabinet, not in digital records, behind a wall panel near 214, tucked between insulation and plaster. It wasn't a patient file, it was mine. Dahlia Chen, hospital technician, Project Lantern. Transfer from Site 9. I never worked here. I was never a technician. Except, there was my photo, younger, wearing scrubs, smiling. The record mentioned, memory graft incomplete, requires recontainment. That word, recontainment. I sat there for a long time, file in my lap, not knowing what I was, who I was. The stain on the ceiling was no longer just a stain. It had a face now, mine, and when I blinked, it blinked. When I left that night, I drove without direction, ended up on a cliffside near the quarry. Something told me I'd been here before. I checked my glove box, found another note. Written on the back of a prescription, my name, the words, too many inside, can't tell which are mine anymore. I didn't go back the next night, but the hospital called, told me I was missed, that I'd left my badge. I said, I was never hired. The voice on the line paused. Dahlia, we recovered you from Site 9. You volunteered for Lantern. You were in room 214 before it was sealed. We brought you back. My hand was shaking. I'm a janitor. No, you're not. That's the graft. It's decaying. I hung up. I smashed the phone. But deep down, part of me believed them. Because I'd started hearing other voices, not out loud, inside. A woman from 1994 begging for her baby. A man insisting his wife was a spy, a child whispering numbers, all spilling into my thoughts, all layered like mold. That night I couldn't sleep, so I went back. Room 214 was already open, light buzzing above it, low and sickly. The black shape now dipped all along the ceiling, draped like wet fabric, shifting as if breathing. And in the bed, me, hooked to monitors, eyes open. I stared at myself, staring back. She didn't blink, didn't breathe, just whispered, I remember you now. I ran, I got outside, vomited behind a dumpster, tried to drive, but the keys weren't mine. Nothing was mine anymore. I tried to call my sister, no answer, tried to remember her face, nothing. Just a static-filled scream in my head and the sensation of straps tightening across my wrists again. It's been 3 days. No one's come looking. My reflection twitches wrong in every surface. The voice I speak with feels borrowed. Even my heartbeat sounds like it's trying to sync with someone else's. But the worst part, the shadow doesn't follow me anymore. I follow it. The end. I'd walk the same gravel shoulder every weekday for 5 years, parcel pouch biting into my spine, sorting mail by muscle memory. The fog never really lifted here, just shifted, draping its weight over roofs, telephone wires, my boots. I knew every barking dog by tone, every busted fence. Routine, dead solid, until Wednesday. That morning, my pouch held a letter I didn't remember sorting. Heavy envelope, thick paper, wax seal I didn't recognize, stamped with a circle of thorns. No return address, just my name in perfect cursive, Silas. Not the family name, not Silas Markham like it should have been, just Silas, like that was all I'd ever been. I opened it behind the gas station. Inside was a photo, old, yellowed, torn at the edge. A newborn. Black and white. My face. I knew it. Same mole by the left nostril, same crooked eyelid. But the date scrawled on the back, April 3rd, 1971, was 24 years too early. I didn't remember walking home. My keys were in the door. My pouch was still slung over my shoulder. I didn't tell anyone. Next morning, Pastor Leary stopped the sermon to say my name. "Silas has returned," he said, like it was a verse. I hadn't spoken to him since my baptism. He locked eyes with me as the choir fell silent. No one laughed. No one looked confused. A few people nodded. One woman across the aisle crossed herself and wept. I left before communion. My chest felt too tight, like something was pressing out from the inside. Friday, a teacher at the elementary school, someone I'd never met, opened the front doors before I knocked. "You came back," she whispered. "You came back whole this time." She cupped my face in her hands. I didn't pull away. Her palms were trembling. Back at the house, I pulled my birth certificate from the shoebox under the bed. It was gone. In its place was a yellowing church bulletin dated April 3rd, 1971. I wasn't born then. I wasn't even conceived. I asked my mother, quietly, over dishes. She dried her hands on a towel and said, "That's not something we talk about." "What isn't?" Her jaw set. "Things were different then." "That's not an answer." "You've always been Silas," she said. "That's what matters." The faucet dripped. 1, 2, 3. I didn't sleep that night. The house creaked more than usual, floorboards groaning, pipes breathing. I swear I heard my own voice whispering behind the bedroom door. Saturday morning, I went to the church. No one stopped me, not even Pastor Leary, who nodded solemnly as I walked past the pulpit. I found a stairwell behind the altar. I don't remember how I knew it was there. The knob was cold. My breath fogged the air. It shouldn't have been that cold in June. The room beneath the church smelled like old pine and damp stone. It wasn't lit, but I could see. Perfectly. The walls were lined with portraits, framed identically, spaced evenly, dozens of them. Me. Not lookalikes. Me. At every age. Toddler, teenager, mid-30s, elderly. But none of them were current. None of them were the me I recognized from mirrors. Each frame had a brass plate. Each plate read Silas. No surnames, no dates. I stumbled back. My hand brushed something soft, robes maybe, and I turned, heart pounding, but the room was empty. Just my breath, just the hum. It wasn't electricity. It was lower than that, almost breathing. I left before I could look again, but the image burned. Every version of me but me. That night I shaved my head, just to feel in control. My face looked alien without the hair. Every time I caught my reflection, I flinched. By Monday, things had escalated. People stepped off sidewalks when I passed. A child bowed to me near the diner. My father, who hadn't hugged me since I was 9, pressed his forehead to mine at the grocery store and whispered, "Be stronger than he was." He who? He didn't answer, just walked away, like he'd said too much. I tried calling the county office to request a copy of my birth certificate. They had no record of my name, no hospital file, no documentation at all. "It's like you never existed," the clerk said, laughing nervously. I didn't laugh. 2 days later, the dream started. I was standing in a circle of ash. My skin itched. My eyes bled. A crowd chanted my name, Silas, 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 until it stopped meaning anything. Until it became a sound without shape. I'd wake up biting my tongue. Sometimes I woke up already standing. Then came the candlelight. They surrounded my house, dozens of townsfolk holding waxy tapers, whispering prayers in a dialect I didn't recognize. I called the sheriff. He said, "They're just preparing." "For what?" He paused. "For the separation." I ran, not far, just out the back, just long enough to breathe. When I came back, they were gone. But a symbol had been carved into my door, a spiral of thorns, same as the seal on the envelope. I started asking questions, quiet ones, late-night ones. An old man at the feed store told me the town had always had a Silas, always. When one passed, another arrived. Nobody questioned it. "Your face just reappears," he said. "Different eyes, same soul." "What happens to the old one?" He wouldn't answer. That evening, a thick envelope appeared under my pillow. No stamp, no handwriting, just the seal. Inside was a letter. "The body cannot hold two. He must agree. The vessel must choose which self remains." And below that, another photo. Me again. But not quite. He looked tired. Skin sagged. Eyes darker. My age, my height. But the mouth was wrong. The teeth didn't sit right. and behind the photo a note scrawled in ink that looked half-dried blood. He won't go quietly this time. I started hearing things in mirrors, not reflections, voices, low, familiar, begging. Let me stay. I was first. You're just skin. One night I tried to smash the bathroom mirror. It didn't crack. My fist bled. My reflection didn't. Then came the ceremony. They brought me in robes, dressed me, painted my face with ash and oil. I didn't resist. I didn't scream. I felt quiet inside. Like I was a hallway someone else had walked through. The church was full, silent. Everyone held candles, 2 chairs, one me, one him. He looked just like me, but heavier. Like grief clung to his shoulders. We didn't speak, we just stared. Same eyes, different soul. Pastor Leary stepped forward. One will recede, one will remain. My hands trembled. He reached into his robe, held out the same envelope. You decide, he said. I opened it. Empty. He looked confused, then afraid. Behind me I heard my voice whisper, neither will leave. The candles went out. I didn't move, couldn't. Something inside twisted, like 2 hands pressing against opposite sides of my ribs, fighting for the same breath. They started screaming, the congregation, the pastor, him, all of them screaming, and still, I didn't move. My mouth opened, but it wasn't me who spoke. I was never borrowed. Then silence. I woke up on the floor of my room, alone. No robe, no ash, just the envelope on my chest. Empty. I looked in the mirror. Something looked off, not wrong, just unfamiliar, like I was still forming. That night, my father knocked on my door, just stood there, looking pale. They said it worked, he whispered, but you don't look like either. He turned and left. I haven't been to the church since, but sometimes, late at night, I see flickers of candlelight at the edge of the woods. They still say my name differently now. Like it's not a name, just a warning. The end. I always woke up before the dome lights did. They used to flicker on at 6:03 exactly. Soft blue first, then golden wash, mimicking a gentle sunrise. It was the only moment that still felt human. My body knew it, even if the light wasn't real. Even if the warmth was a programmed illusion piped through ducts too quiet to hear. I used to trust it until it changed. One morning, it came at 6:03 and 20 seconds. The next, 6:04. Then 6:04 and 7. I logged the shifts, curious. I told myself it was drift, mechanical lag maybe, but it kept growing. The sun started rising late by seconds, then minutes, and I could feel it inside my bones. Off, wrong. Delayed light feels different, like smiling after someone leaves the room. I asked the regulator AI about it during routine checks. It just blinked green and said, natural variances within normal. That phrase stuck. Cold and clean. Within normal, like I was the one who wasn't. I stopped sleeping through the night after that. At 3:21 a.m., 2 days later, I woke up to my daughter screaming. She was sitting up in bed, clutching her ears, saying over and over, "The lights are lying, the lights are lying." Her pupils were huge, skin pale, damp. I wrapped her in my arms and tried to soothe her, but she pushed against me and kept whispering, "It's not morning when they say it is." I didn't tell her I'd been thinking the same thing. The next sunrise came at 6:07, then 6:10, then 6:13, and then, one day, it jumped back to 5:56. I stared at the time code. It wasn't a glitch, it was a reset. I checked the archived logs from Sector 18's central lighting system. The data didn't match mine. According to the official files, the sunrise had always been at 6 on the dot. No drift, no shift, no resets. Worse, there were timestamps showing me asleep in the control booth during hours I knew I'd been walking patrol. I watched myself on the feed, slumped, still, mouth slightly open, dreaming. A lie. I hadn't even blinked that night. There was one clip I couldn't shake. The camera caught me in the break room, staring at the vending wall, unmoving for 9 minutes. I don't remember going in there. I don't remember buying anything. But when I checked my pocket, there was an empty bar wrapper. Peanut Crunch. I hate peanuts. My supervisor told me to take a few days off. Your circadian rhythm might be overcompensating. It happens. The dome's SimTech does affect different people in different ways. That phrase again. It happens. He smiled too easily. Eyes that didn't match the words. No questions about my daughter's screams. No concern. Just protocol. The next night, I sat up and watched the light cycle manually. Every 8 minutes, the sun reset. It would rise in slow, convincing warmth, arc for 55 seconds, then dip, black, a 4-second pause, then it began again. Rise, hold, fall, rise, hold, fall. No one else noticed. The city buzzed as usual, clean streets, fake breeze, people in identical transit uniforms sipping identical stimulant shots. A man passed me and nodded, cheerful. "Great sunrise today," he said. I stared at him. "It's the 5th one since 6 a.m. He laughed. "You're funny, Trap." He kept walking. I went back to the archive. I wasn't authorized for deep access, but I knew how to jump clearance using my daughter's medical override code. She'd been tagged special needs ever since her father died. Trauma unlocks things, even if you never meant to use it. The solar regulation file was labeled Lumen 243B. Under it, one line, all caps. "Do not modify. Active psych stability testing in progress." I copied it. I stared at it. I deleted my own request log. Then I found something worse. A live satellite feed was hidden in the thermal diagnostics panel. It wasn't supposed to be there. It wasn't even labeled. I opened it anyway. What I saw wasn't sky. It was rows, hundreds, maybe thousands of domes. Most were dark. Some flickered. A few had collapsed entirely, cracks like spiderwebs across their surfaces. No movement inside. Except one. Sector 18. We were the only ones still fully lit, and the file attached to us was tagged Obedience Model Resilience. I didn't sleep after that. I watched the dome. I stopped blinking, and the light started watching back. I began hearing sounds between cycles, tiny static pops like teeth clicking, and once when it rose again, I saw a face, just for a second, reflected in the polished steel surface of the ventilation pipe near the ceiling. It wasn't mine. It smiled like it knew I'd seen it. I tried to show my daughter. I brought her into the control booth, but she just cried and covered her eyes. "Stop making them mad," she whispered. "They like it better when we pretend." I held her hand. Cold. She didn't look like she'd slept in days. Her voice was dry, cracking. She wouldn't drink water. Said it tasted like noise. I called medical. They told me to sedate her. Standard protocol. I didn't. Instead, I pulled out the emergency override key and accessed the maintenance crawlway at the far end of the dome, past the sealed vault doors, past the unmonitored corridor. No one ever went there anymore. The air changed as I got closer, not colder, thinner, like it didn't want to be breathed. At the very end was a viewing port, obsolete tech, glass instead of projection. I wiped away the dust. Outside, nothing, not night, not day, just ash-colored stillness. No wind, no sky, no sun. The real world was gone. I looked across the field. The nearest dome had collapsed. Its inner panels dangled, stripped of light. Shapes inside, not moving, just hanging. I opened the broadcast panel. Inside was a directive labeled Lumen Fidelity Tier Max. We weren't survivors, we were the control group. They were testing how much fake light we'd tolerate before we stopped believing it was real. And I had believed, for months. I staggered back into the corridor. I couldn't tell how long I'd been gone. My watch was dead, no time on the walls. The dome light reset again as I entered. Rise, hold, fall. Then I heard my daughter, not screaming, singing. A soft hum, off tune, repeating, "The sun is fake, the sun is fake, the sun is fake." She sat in the middle of the floor staring at nothing. I crouched down and whispered her name. She didn't blink. Then she said, "They're going to test a new schedule tomorrow. The fast one, the one that melts your thoughts." My stomach dropped. "How do you know that?" She smiled. Her teeth were bloody. "They told me in the sleep." I carried her to the med bay myself, but the door wouldn't open. Panel red, access denied. They'd locked me out. Back in the booth, the AI screen blinked. A new message. Compliance status deteriorating. Subject trap marked for escalation. I crushed the console. Sparks flew. It didn't matter. The lights still rose. They rose and fell, again and again. Faster now. Less golden, more white, surgical, hollow. My daughter whispered, "Don't look at it next time. It's not for us anymore." I didn't know what she meant until the next reset. The light came in and didn't leave. It held. Not sunrise, not noon, just one endless, blinding plateau. No shadows, no variance. And the sound, the hum got deeper, slower, like a voice pretending to be a machine. I crawled back to the viewing port. Outside, something was moving between the domes. Long, smooth limbs, not walking, sliding. It didn't leave tracks. It moved toward us. Inside, the dome light flickered, then spoke, in a voice like mine but wrong. "Daylight sustains obedience. Do not deviate." I ripped the panel wires out. The light stayed on. My daughter hasn't spoken in 2 days, just stares at the wall. She won't blink either. I think they're adjusting us, testing who breaks first. The sun hasn't risen in over a year, but it still tells us when to wake up, and we do. The end. I hadn't seen the McCready sign in 60 years. Still crooked on the post, still half swallowed by the birch tree growing around it. It shouldn't have been here. The town was decommissioned in '84, floodplain issues, population decline, that kind of bureaucratic death. But the road was still paved, and the grocery store still had a red open sign blinking faintly behind dusty glass. I parked outside the post office. The flag was up, swaying in wind I couldn't feel. That was the first thing that made my stomach drop, not the sign, not the empty road, but the absence of sound. No birds, no bugs, not even the low hum of a working town, just silence. And then, Helen McCready? A woman in a blue apron came around the corner like she'd been waiting. Hair in rollers, rouged cheeks, she looked like someone from my mother's church group. She hugged me. Her hands were cold, real cold. "You came back, hon. We always knew you would. You just needed time." I pulled away and blinked at her. Her name tag said Mabel. I didn't recognize the face, but her voice itched at something under my ribs. I smiled politely like I used to at the VA hospital when someone mistook me for their daughter. "I'm here for my sister's things," I said. "Margaret McCready? Oh, she's resting now, dear. Left you everything. You'll find the keys at the church office." She patted my arm and walked off without another word. I didn't ask where the church was. I knew. Somehow I remembered every street corner, the smell of baking bread near Wallace's Market, the way the creek sounded under the bridge behind the old schoolhouse. None of it had changed. Except me. I was 86. That school was rubble in 1973, and Wallace died in '51, struck by lightning on his roof. I walked. The church stood exactly where it always had, whitewashed, with the same crack down the middle of the steeple bell. I tried my phone again. No bars. Just a soft static, almost like breathing, pressing into my ear when I held it too long. A folded key waited on the pastor's desk with a note. "She's in the parlor." I didn't ask who she was. I knew. The house on Magnolia Lane creaked like it had been waiting for someone to open it again. A vase of wilting lilies sat on the entryway table, though no one had been here since the funeral. I touched the doily underneath, crocheted, my pattern. I'd made it in '42. There were footsteps upstairs, slow, familiar, not dragging, but measured, like someone pacing, thinking. I called up, "Margaret?" The footsteps paused, then silence. I climbed the stairs anyway. I had to. The bedroom was neat, bed made, window open just enough to let in the smell of hydrangeas. A framed photo of my son, Daniel, sat on the nightstand. I hadn't brought it. I leaned closer. It wasn't Daniel. It was my father. I turned to the mirror on the wardrobe. For a moment, I didn't see myself. Just a younger woman, early 20s, lips red, hair pinned, blue dress I hadn't worn in 70 years, holding a berry basket. Then the reflection caught up. An old woman, gaunt, trembling, alone. I backed away, heart thudding too hard for a woman my age. Then I heard her voice. "Do you remember the Blackberry Hill?" It came from the parlor. I crept down. My knees ached like fire, but I didn't stop. Margaret sat on the parlor sofa, wearing the green dress she'd worn the day James, my husband, was declared missing in France. She looked maybe 35. Her eyes didn't meet mine. "They said he died," she whispered. "But you wouldn't believe them. You waited by the window for years." I remember. "No, Helen, you don't. Not the truth." My throat felt like it was closing. I left. I moved to Chicago. I married again. I had Daniel. "You never left. Not really." She pointed at the cabinet drawer. I opened it with shaking hands. Inside was a metal tag, the kind they use at clinical trials, faded but legible. Subject number 44, grief induction. I dropped it. My knees buckled. Margaret watched me without blinking. Her face was calm, kind. "You died in 1952, Helen. You just didn't want to remember." The floor tilted. I clutched the armrest. "No. You crashed your car. You were coming back here to see his grave. You didn't believe the war was over. You thought he'd still be waiting." No, I had Daniel. I had a life. You had a story." I stumbled out the door. The air outside felt thinner now. Each breath scraped. The street was too quiet again. Wallace's market door creaked open, and I saw myself, younger, holding a basket, humming. She turned and smiled. I ran. The town hall was just across the green. I remembered breaking in once as kids, hunting rats in the basement. That same door was still loose. I kicked it open and descended. The basement air smelled of mildew and thyme, and something else, electric dust, old copper, like an abandoned switchboard. At the end of the corridor was a locked metal door, but it opened when I touched it. Inside, rows of old film reels, shelves of them, labeled in thick black marker, McCready 1939, McCready 1942, McCready Daniel variant. A projector sat idle on a stool, one reel already threaded, another labeled Final Acknowledgement, Insert Attempt Number 19. I stepped closer. On the wall a mirror flickered to life. Not a mirror, a screen, my face, younger, crying, talking to someone off screen. He's not dead, I'll find him, I'll wait forever. Behind her, the same parlor, the screen jumped. Now she was older, then older still, always alone, always talking to shadows. Then a final clip, a coffin. My name etched in the plate, Helen Louise McCready, 1926-1952. A door creaked behind me, footsteps, not Margaret, not me, it was him, James, wearing the same uniform he'd worn in the photo I kept by my bedside until I moved out of the VA facility. But his face, not right, waxen, kind but empty. You can stay, he said softly, just stop remembering. I wanted to, God, I wanted to, but I looked back at the reels, at the one labeled Daniel variant. He didn't exist, I'd invented him. A life spun from grief. I want to leave. You can't. I want to. He stepped forward, eyes darkening. There is no out, Helen. There's only the loop. You built this. I don't care. The projector sparked. Lights blew out one by one. I ran, climbed the stairs two at a time, out into the street. No cars, no sounds, just memories. Mabel, sweeping the porch. Wallace, smiling with a loaf of bread. Children playing tag in the yard behind the church. Children who died in '44 of polio. They waved. I didn't wave back. I walked past them, through them. Toward the edge of town, the trees began to blur, leaves flickering like a bad reel. My legs dragged. Then, a voice not my own from inside my skull. Subject number 44, conscious divergence detected. Loop instability critical. The ground dropped out. Darkness. Then, breath, pain, beeping. I opened my eyes. White ceiling. Fluorescent hum. A man in scrubs leaning over me, startled. She's awake. My God, she's actually awake. I couldn't speak. He held up a clipboard. Helen McCready? You've been under for 73 years. He said something else, but it all melted. I saw a mirror across the room, and in it I was still young, still in the blue dress, still holding the basket, but my hands were soaked in something dark. Not berries, not this time. The end. We moved in on a Tuesday. The lawn was already trimmed, the fridge stocked, and there was a welcome basket on the counter, fruit, muffins, and a note that read, "We're so happy you're here, Nina and Alec. Dinner starts at 6:42. I thought it was a joke. It wasn't. That night, at exactly 6:42 p.m., the air outside filled with the smell of meat, identical grills lighting on identical driveways. Alec noticed first. That's weirdly synchronized, he said, watching smoke curl upward from every yard on our street. Same chairs, same brand of ketchup, same music. I tried waving at a woman across the street. She smiled, but didn't wave back. Just nodded, like she was ticking off a box. The next morning, Alec dragged the trash can out at 7:10. At 7:13, there was a knock. Two neighbors stood there, grinning like they'd practiced in a mirror. One held a clipboard. "Trash pickup is at 7:03, he said gently. "Just a heads up, we like to stay aligned." I laughed, but Alec didn't. His jaw clenched like it did when his dad used to correct him in front of guests. We adjusted. At first, 3 days in, I found a slip of paper under the door. It wasn't typed, it was handwritten, each letter perfectly spaced like calligraphy from someone who'd never blinked. It listed our entire week. Tuesday, minor disagreement about dishwasher. Wednesday, emotional reconnection over dinner. Thursday, tension. He sleeps on the couch. It even included meals. Salmon, broccoli, quinoa, emotion restraint. I thought Alec left it. He thought I did. But we followed it. Not because we believed it, because it started predicting us. The fight over the dishwasher, we had it. Word for word. Friday's note said relief then fatigue, sleep at 10:04 p.m. At 10:03, my eyelids shut on their own. I woke at 6:31 with a dry mouth and the taste of metal on my tongue. A week later, they upped the intimacy. The schedule now told us when to laugh, when to cry, when to initiate sex. Midnight, mutual longing, no climax, eye contact, sustained. We laughed about it, once. But I caught Alec in the bathroom, staring at the mirror with his palm pressed to the glass, whispering, "This isn't real, this isn't real, this isn't real." I stopped checking the notes. Alec started collecting them. By week 2, the neighborhood felt like a stage. Nobody made small talk. No one ever left. The same cars, same expressions, same dogs barking in the exact same rhythm. I waved again, at a boy on a bike this time. He froze, then rode away in a straight line, didn't turn, didn't look back. And then I started hearing my mom's voice, just once at first, on my voicemail. "Hi, honey, don't forget to take your vitamins." It was her voice exactly. The soft chew at the end of vitamins, the way she always paused before saying honey, except she died 2 years ago. I played it for Alec. He just stared at the phone. "We need to get out of here," he whispered. We tried, packed a bag, started the car, but the gate didn't open, and the GPS only showed one road, Homeview Lane. No intersections, no exits, no landmarks. The map was a circle. The next morning, our garage light didn't turn off at 9 p.m. The bulb had burned out. At 9:03, there was a knock. I didn't answer. At 9:06, they tried again. 4 knocks, measured, rhythmic. By 9:10, they stopped knocking. At 9:15, our power went out. When it came back on, every photo in our hallway had been changed. The frames were the same, but we weren't smiling in any of them. We were sitting side by side, expressionless, hands folded. The doorbell rang. I opened it. No one was there. Just another note. 2 words. Correct trajectory. That night I woke up to light, soft, flickering. I pulled back the curtain and froze. Half the neighborhood was standing in our backyard. Just standing. All holding candles, all facing the house. No one moved. No one spoke. Some were barefoot. Some wore pajamas. One man had a steak knife tucked under his belt. I backed away slowly. Alec was already up. "Don't go outside," I whispered. He didn't answer, just stared through the glass. "They're practicing," he said. "For what?" He didn't blink. "For us." The next morning, the footage was gone. Our security system had been wiped clean, every clip labeled no data. At 11:14 a.m., I got another call. Mom again. "You're doing great, sweetie. Just stay on script." I threw the phone across the room. That night, we didn't sleep. We sat in the living room, lights off, clutching kitchen knives. I kept thinking about the steak knife in that man's belt, like they were waiting for permission or rehearsal. Alec leaned over. "They're not people." "What?" "They're not real. They're something else, trained or built." He showed me the back of the schedule. It was a graph. Our names on the x-axis. The y-axis said predictability quotient. Underneath, goal, 98%. Terminate at 82% or lower. My name hovered at 83%. Alex was 79%. "They're going to replace us," he said flatly, "unless we start doing what they want." I started to cry, but the tears didn't feel right. They felt assigned. We decided to act. I smeared mud on our faces. Alex shut off the Wi-Fi. We huddled in the crawl space for hours. No one came. But the next morning there was a knock. Not at the door. Inside the house, from the hallway closet. Just 3 slow knocks. We didn't open it. We moved a dresser in front of the door and sat on the floor. That night, a candle was left on our porch, flickering, alone, with a single word written beneath it, calibration. I don't know how long we stayed awake. The clock started changing, 2:13, then 11:56, then 5:05. I blinked and Alec was in a different room. I screamed for him. He walked in from the backyard, barefoot, dirt on his shirt, smiling too wide. "Nina," he said calmly, "they want to help." I backed away. "You're not Alec." He tilted his head. "Don't be difficult." I locked myself in the bathroom, tried the window. It wouldn't budge. Then the light flickered, and I saw them again. Through the vent, eyes, dozens of eyes, watching. Some blinking in perfect sync, others not blinking at all. I screamed, but no one came. Or maybe they did. I just couldn't hear them anymore. Because when I stepped out, the house was empty. Too empty. Our furniture was wrong. Same layout, but off by inches, like it had been copied. Reset. I found another note in Alec's handwriting. "You're at 97%, almost done. Stay on script." The closets were empty. no clothes, no shoes, just one item. My mother's old scarf, the one she was still smelled like her. Faint lavender and dust. I sat on the floor, wrapped it around my neck, and outside, I heard the barbecue lighters click. 6:42, dinner time, the end. It started as static, soft, nothing. A crackle here, a pop there. I told myself it was just interference. It started as static, soft, nothing. A crackle here, a pop there. I told myself it was just interference. I had the cheap baby monitors, the kind with the little green light that flickers when there's sound. I used to joke they were haunted, until they said my name, Ellie, whispered like someone blowing into a cupped hand. I was in bed, one twin on each side of the crib in the nursery, no one else in the house. I blinked at the ceiling for a while, heart thudding, before rolling over and unplugging the monitor. Next night, same thing. Ellie, different tone this time, sharper, like someone scolding me. I switched frequencies, bought a new monitor, digital this time, better range. It chirped at me when I tested it, clear sound, no static. I slept a little easier, until the third night. The monitor was in my hand. I'd taken it to the kitchen while washing bottles. The twins had finally gone down after a 3-hour colic spiral, and I was half delirious with exhaustion. I stood there with the water running when it started humming, a lullaby. My voice. The tune was off-key, slow, but unmistakably mine. I bolted upstairs, still soaking, the monitor clutched to my chest. The twins were asleep. Nothing playing in the room, no toys on, no white noise, just that awful silence after sound. The monitor still hummed in my hand. Then it stopped. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the hallway floor between the nursery and my room with a kitchen knife, door cracked open just enough to see the crib. Waiting. Nothing came. Morning felt wrong. I moved slowly like I'd aged overnight. My reflection looked hollowed out. I called my mom, asked if I'd ever sleep-trained with humming or recorded my voice or something. She paused. No, hon, that's not your thing. That night I kept the baby monitor off. I checked the twins in person every 10 minutes, dozing on the nursery floor. At 3:42 a.m. I woke to crying. Not through the monitor, not in the room, from the monitor. It was off. Still I heard them, my babies crying from inside the device that had no power. I turned it over, no battery. Nothing connected. But their cries came through anyway, sharp and panicked like they were being hurt. I lunged for the crib. They were asleep, both of them, breathing slow. I looked down. The monitor still cried. The next day, I checked the house, every inch. I started in the twins' room, looked under the crib, behind the dresser, even inside the air vent. I found nothing, just some dust and a rattle I'd lost months ago. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone had been in there. Not recently, but often. That night, I set up my phone camera in the corner, facing the nursery door, just to see. The footage showed me putting the twins down, kissing their foreheads, closing the door. Then, at 2:13 a.m., the footage glitched, a blur, half a frame, and then me, walking into the nursery, same robe, same posture, only I was in bed. I checked the timestamp against my bedroom camera. I was asleep, but on the nursery feed, I was humming. I stared at the screen for hours, rewinding the same 30 seconds, trying to convince myself I'd sleepwalked, but I don't sleepwalk, I've never. And the hallway camera had nothing. It was only on that camera, only in that room. Something inside me cracked then. Not a big break, just a hairline fracture, but I felt it. The next day I called the security company, came and upgraded everything. Cameras on all doors, motion sensors, full system. They left a pamphlet. Peace of mind, it said. That night at 4:06 a.m., all the alarms triggered. Every door, every window. The nursery camera cut out for exactly 12 seconds. When I reviewed the logs, there was no breach, no footage, just static. I didn't sleep for 3 nights after that. I made formula with shaking hands, changed diapers in a fog. I was floating somewhere above myself, waiting to fall. And then I found the crawl space. It was in the twins' room, a soft spot under the rug, near the crib. The boards shifted slightly when I stepped there barefoot at night. I pried them up with a butter knife. Underneath, dust, insulation, a hatch barely big enough for a person, and a latch. I should have called someone. I should have waited until morning. But I was so tired, so scared, and something deep inside me wanted to know. The space beneath smelled like old electronics, dust and something rotting. I dropped my phone down first, flashlight on, boxes, monitors, stacks of cassette tapes, dozens. I climbed down. It was barely tall enough to crouch. I could hear the monitor buzzing faintly above me, but there were no cords down here, nothing powered, just piles of baby monitors, some cracked, some still lit. I picked up a tape. Ellie, training session 2. They were all labeled like that, 10, 20, maybe more. I grabbed one, clicked it into a dusty recorder I found nearby. It whirred. Then, "I'm sorry, please, I want to see them, I want to remember my voice, only older, shakier." Then laughter, soft, male, familiar. "You'll remember what we give you, Ellie. That's all you need." Something shifted behind me. I turned. Nothing there, but when I turned back, the monitors were on. All of them. Dozens of voices crackled through, some crying, some laughing, some whispering things I didn't understand. And then one loud, sharp word. "Run." I dropped the recorder, climbed out, hands bleeding from splinters, covered the hole, moved the crib, called the cops. They found nothing. I told them I'd had a breakdown, postpartum stress. They nodded too quickly. I didn't sleep for days, but I kept hearing it, my voice, humming, apologizing, screaming. Then one night, I found a letter in the mailbox. No stamp, just a Polaroid inside. Me, holding the twins. Only it wasn't this house. And the person holding the camera, reflected in the mirror behind me, was also me. But she looked older, tired, wearing a hospital bracelet. There was a number written in pen on the back, 4B72. No area code, no clue. Just that. I couldn't eat, couldn't think. I started avoiding mirrors. Every time I passed one, I felt delayed, like the reflection lagged. And sometimes when I blinked, it didn't. One night, I looked into the baby monitor screen and saw myself watching. From inside, me tilted her head like she was listening. Then she said, "They're not yours." I smashed it against the wall. It still whispered. So I pulled the batteries, burned the cords, trashed every single monitor. The house was silent after that, too silent, until tonight. The twins were already asleep. I was brushing my teeth, watching the hallway mirror warily. I'd left my bedroom door open, and I heard it again, crying, but not from the crib, from under the floor, both voices, crying in stereo. I grabbed the flashlight, ran, pulled up the rug. The hatch was open. The smell hit me first, sweet rotten dust. Then the sound, clearer now, my babies, screaming from below. I don't remember climbing down, I just remember the dark, the walls, and then mirrors, floor to ceiling, 100 versions of me, all watching. Some were sobbing, others laughing. One had no mouth. Then I saw them, the twins, sleeping peacefully. I reached out, but my hands went through. The crib was a projection, and behind it, on the wall, a mirror. I walked up to it. My reflection smiled and said, "She's still down here." The end. I was the only one who got the message. It came through a secure city email, flagged red, subject line screaming, "Urgent. Mandatory evacuation for parcel C Zone 09. I clicked it 5 times just to make sure it wasn't a glitch. But it was addressed to me, by name, full name, my residential coordinates listed in bold. I stared at the screen like it might blink first. Everyone else kept working. Phones rang. Conference calls buzzed. Susan in GIS was complaining about the vending machine again. No alarms, no lockdowns, no mention of a citywide threat. "Hey," I said, too casual, "any of you get an evacuation notice just now?" Blank stares, then chuckles. "What, like a fire drill?" someone asked. "No, it said parcel C Zone 09, that's Ballard." They laughed harder. I didn't, because that's my block. After work, I drove home through normal rush hour, cars, kids on scooters, some guy pressure washing his driveway. Nothing wrong. But then, at the corner of 54th and 11th, I saw them. White vans. Unmarked. Men in pale gray hazmat suits standing on rooftops, staring at the clouds. They were installing motion detectors under drain pipes. Tethered drones hovered quietly above trees, silent like watching eyes. I parked 2 blocks down and walked. Our front door still had the little blue sticker from last winter's energy audit. I paused before opening it. The house felt different, like the air inside had been replaced. Karen was upstairs folding laundry. She didn't mention the men outside. I didn't either. "Anything weird happened today?" I asked, pretending to check my phone. She folded a towel, paused. I couldn't log into the utility site. My phone screen flickered, then froze. Yeah, I said. Same. At 2 a.m., something thudded against fence. Karen didn't move. I crept out with the kitchen flashlight, holding it low. The beam cut across our garden, past the compost bin, and stopped on a pair of footprints. Bare feet, wet. Leading away from the back gate, I followed them to the sidewalk and saw the neighbor's front door wide open. Rodney. I knocked. Called his name. Nothing. Inside smelled metallic, like old batteries or blood. I didn't go further. I went home. Locked every door. Didn't sleep. By morning, yellow barricades wrapped our street like caution tape at a crime scene. White signs stenciled in black. Temporary zone restriction. Federal pest remediation. No entry-exit. I asked the guy standing at the blockade what kind of pest this was. He didn't speak, just held up a laminated card. Area under protocol review. Stay indoors. Protocol review. At 11 a.m., a drone dipped low over our house. It sprayed something. Fine mist, almost invisible. Karen was in the shower. I watched from the kitchen window. The mail never came. At 1:06 p.m., my phone lost signal. Karen started sleepwalking that night. I found her in the hallway barefoot, mumbling softly. Her mouth moved in little spasms. 001011. I shook her. Karen? She looked through me, then blinked like she just woke up. Was I talking? The next day I tried the internet. Dead. But then I noticed something. Every hour on the dot, a strange window would flash on my laptop. Just for a second. White box. Black text. Cycle 4 integrity. Stable. Observation continues. I slammed the lid shut. I started writing things down by hand. Notes. Timestamps. Behavior patterns. I wasn't the only one noticing. Out my window, I watched Marlene from 2 houses down pacing her driveway in loops. Her husband hadn't been seen in days. That night I heard something scream. It was human, but wrong. Glitchy. Like a voice chopped into static. I didn't open the door. 2 hours later, I saw the men in hazmat suits wheel a body out of the Jones garage. No stretcher. Just a black bag. They tagged the front door with a sticker, transmission failure, reject. No one said anything. The neighborhood group chat went silent. Karen stopped eating. On the 4th day, I broke into Rodney's house. The inside was wrecked, every window sealed with duct tape. The living room stripped bare. I followed the smell to the garage. His body wasn't whole, just pieces. Melted flesh smeared across a drain, bones clean. His head sat upright in a bucket, his eyes wide open. The floor was marked with a red circle, like a ritual. A small card hung from a nail. Trigger accepted, vector confirmed. I ran. When I got home, Karen was standing at the top of the stairs. I saw the inside of the sky, she whispered. It's wires. That night, I wrote down everything I could remember about the day I got that message. The exact time, the subject line, how only I received it. And then I remembered something worse. I wasn't supposed to be at work that day. I'd taken it off for a dentist appointment. I'd only logged in by habit, reflex. I wasn't on the test group, but I triggered it. That email wasn't a warning. It was an activation. Every person on this street who got the message reacted the same way. Panic, fear, search for answers. The pathogen wasn't real. The belief was. They infected us with belief. A simulation, seeded through bureaucracy, disguised as protocol. A test. And now it's working. I couldn't stop scratching my arms. My gums bled when I brushed. Karen started blinking in patterns. Her journal filled with numbers. There's no way out. The barricades are permanent now. The mist still comes every evening. Drones hum softly above like lullabies. I tried to write a message for help. Slid it under the barricade. They slid it back, unopened. Across the envelope, someone wrote, "You are inside a closed system. Observation has replaced rescue." Today, a new sticker appeared on our mailbox, green this time. Transmission stage 5, belief saturation achieved. Karen's voice changed. Lower now, clipped. Last night, she told me I'd never really left work that day, that the city outside doesn't exist anymore. Maybe she's right. Or maybe the real experiment wasn't on us at all. Maybe we're just the transmitter. And you weren't supposed to hear this. The end. The building was supposed to be condemned 5 years ago. I parked beside the chain-link fence, stepped over a torn caution sign, and walked past the rust-streaked mailboxes with nobody's name left. The tenement was slumping, like it didn't want to be looked at. but the tenants were still inside. They always were. Third noise complaint in a month. Shaking floors, voices from the plumbing. The dispatcher said rats. I wasn't so sure. Inside, the hallway reeked of warm rot and lemon cleaner. One of those smells tried to cover the other, and neither won. My boots sank slightly into the spongy floor as I made my way to the basement door. No lock. It creaked open like it had been waiting. Cold air came up and touched my throat. I flicked on my flashlight. The stairs weren't wood anymore. They were poured concrete, sharp, clean, recent. But past the landing, something had caved in, earth and brick crushed in a kind of implosion. But the dust was fresh, too fresh. No mold, no spider webs, just one sound barely under the silence. Humming, low, mechanical, rhythmic. I should have called for backup. I know that now. Instead, I started clearing rubble. 4 hours later, I found a door. It was steel, slightly rusted around the hinges. No lock, just a flat push plate, greasy like it had been touched recently. I pushed. The room beyond was a 1950s kitchenette, yellow linoleum, old fridge, still humming. And the light was on, not a bulb swinging from a wire. A ceiling fixture, warm and steady, fed by invisible power lines. I stepped in, brushing my hand against the table. Vinyl seat, toast crumbs. Toast. I opened the fridge, half a loaf of bread, milk in a glass bottle, expired in 1959. The label was still crisp. The temperature was still cold. Someone had been here. Someone still might be. I backed out and took 3 photos on my work phone, noting the GPS. No signal. Of course, I should have stopped, should have sealed it, reported it, and left. But down the hall, past the kitchenette, another room waited. It was a 1970s living room. Ashtray, shag carpet, a stack of TV guide. One dated July 1974. The cover was sticky with age, but the air was dry, undisturbed. I kept going. Every room was from another decade, perfectly preserved. Furnished like someone had just stepped out, and each time, the hallway bent just a little sharper. Too sharp. Soon I wasn't walking straight. I was circling. Then I saw something that made my legs stop working right. A wall painted robin's egg blue. I know that color. That was my bedroom when I was 7. Same crayon marks near the outlet, same chipped paint above the baseboard. And then, my hand reached for the knob before I could think. Inside was a child's room. Small twin bed, glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling, a white dresser with peeling knobs. On the wall, a poster I drew in 3rd grade. The lines were wrong, too precise, like someone remembered it better than I did. I opened the drawer. There was a diary. I never kept one, but it had my name. Inside, dozens of entries. Things I never wrote. Thoughts I'd had, yes, but half-formed. Private. Buried. I turned the last page. It read, "She's almost here." My flashlight flickered. Somewhere behind me, a door clicked shut. I turned. The hallway was different, shorter, closer. I tried walking back, but the room behind me was no longer the kitchen. It was a laundry room from the 1980s, with a Sears dryer rattling softly, still running. I walked faster. The next room was a hospital waiting area. Plastic chairs, fish tank. The water was stale. One fish floated sideways. I remember that room. My mother died in that room. I never went back after. But here it was. Exactly the same, right down to the flickering fluorescent. I sat down hard. The cold went up my spine. A voice crackled softly from a speaker I couldn't see. "Clarissa May Wilton. Please proceed to intake." I vomited into a plastic trash bin. There was nothing in my stomach but dread. I staggered up and ran. Room after room blurred. Repeats, mirrors, duplications. 2 of the same kitchen. 3 living rooms with subtle differences. One had my dad's recliner. Another had my mother's perfume still hanging in the air. I found a room with no furniture. Just a pile of photographs, all of me. Different ages, different years. None I remembered being taken. I picked one up. Me, age 10, smiling at a camera, inside a room I hadn't entered yet. I dropped it and ran. I ran until the walls began to breathe. They pulsed, barely perceptible, but the air moved with them. Like I was inside something alive. A smell rose from the floor. Wet newspaper, sour milk, and something behind it. Burning hair. I covered my mouth and pushed into a side corridor. The walls narrowed. My shoulders brushed both sides. The floor dipped, and there it was. The door to my childhood home's basement, exactly as it had been in 1993, complete with the burn mark on the left side of the stairs, where my brother had spilled hot glue. I hadn't seen that in 30 years. I walked down. The basement was unfinished, concrete and silence. In the far corner, a bed. A figure curled up on it, small, breathing shallow. I knew it before I saw her face. It was me, 9 years old, sleeping, or pretending to. My flashlight died, total dark, except a soft glow from the crack beneath another door. I walked toward it. The handle was warm. Inside, a cluttered apartment, stacks of paper, rotting food, hoarded electronics, a TV playing static. It was my current apartment, but older, worn out, and on the floor surrounded by boxes was my own body, slumped, eyes open, no breath, no movement. I screamed. No sound came out. The TV flicked to an image, an old tenement, the one I'd entered. Only now from above I could see. It wasn't alone. The entire city was honeycombed underneath. Miles of unauthorized construction, rooms stacked upon rooms, decades deep. Every eviction, every failed family, every lonely child. Each had carved out a space, and now it was my turn. My job hadn't been inspection, it was orientation. The last thing I remember was kneeling beside my own body, trying to remember what the surface looked like. But nothing came. No sky, no street, only doorways, endless. I woke up sitting in the kitchenette, toast crumbs, milk bottle, same as before. Except now, the fridge had a photo stuck to it, me, yesterday, holding a clipboard, smiling underneath in shaky handwriting. Welcome home, the end. I was brushing my teeth when the voicemail came in. My phone buzzed once, screen lit up, unknown ID, 3 seconds. I didn't check it right away. I thought it was a spam call. It always is lately. But that night, I played it back. At first, I thought I'd pocket-dialed myself. The voice was mine. Lucas, I know you're listening. I've found deviation events. You were never first. Check 3:17 a.m. I'll send proof. Silence. Then a breath, just one, shaky, too close to the mic. Let me back in. Click. I stood in the middle of my living room for a long time, toothbrush still foaming in my mouth. That tone. It wasn't imitation. It was me. Cadence, pauses, the little rasp on certain syllables. I've transcribed audio for 10 years. I know my own vocal anomalies like a fingerprint. And then that phrase, deviation events. I didn't sleep. I didn't even lie down. Just pulled the apartment security feed on my laptop. Management gave me backdoor access during that tenant dispute last year. I scrolled. Nothing at 3:17 a.m. Just the quiet hallway outside my door. But when I scrubbed frame by frame, there he was, paused in mid-step, hoodie, my sneakers, same shoulder tilt, same limp from my torn meniscus. He swiped my key fob, walked in, never came back out. I went cold. I didn't remember leaving. Didn't find signs of forced entry. Nothing moved inside. But my bed sheets were folded differently. Something else. The clip timestamp was gone, just blank gray in the metadata column. No file creation history. I tried to screen record, but the file wouldn't save. I checked my fob, last use 3:17 a.m. By Thursday, my email was locked. Two-factor refused to send. Client portals said I was already logged in. Different location. Chicago. I haven't left Brooklyn in months. I called Shanna, my girlfriend. She sounded weird. Guarded. You don't have to lie, she said. It's fine. What are you talking about? You were at the Birch Cafe Tuesday. You waved. You smiled. Don't gaslight me. I didn't smile at anyone. I hadn't left the apartment that day. I'd been editing a pharma whistleblower piece. I told her that. Long pause. Your mole's on the left side, she said. Tuesday, it was on the right. I hung up. I tried facial recognition on Google Photos, just to confirm. It ID'd all my shots as Lucas, of course. But one photo had a tag suggestion. Alternate suggested match, LC prototype. Never seen that before. That night, I found the stream. It wasn't hidden, just misnamed. In my recent documents, a folder I didn't open, client code split aegis. Inside, 800 plus raw video files, surveillance angle, high res. Each showed me walking, eating, typing, always from behind tinted glass or over the shoulder. One file was labeled Deviation Public Distress Event Loop Number 1. I played it. It was me, crying, shaking, in a Starbucks bathroom, clutching a cracked phone. I didn't remember any of it. My voice from off-screen, how long until breakdown? A second voice, subject is holding at tolerance level 3, initiate proximity conflict. My chest got tight. I opened my system info panel. Under device name, it didn't say MacBook Pro. It said Aegis Trace 94R. I ran a biometric test through a forensic ID site, just for peace of mind. Match 99.97%. Mismatch, ocular deviation left iris, 0.03%. Then the flag hit. Subject origin, post-event reconstruction. Data origin, reverse injected via behavioral template capture. I sat very still. He was right. I'm not first, I'm a replacement. My hands shook as I unlocked the desk drawer. My birth certificate was in there. Original, laminated. I'd always prided myself on keeping it pristine. Bottom corner now had a watermark I'd never seen. A triangular symbol upside down with a slit through the middle. Underneath, issued per reinstatement protocol, revision group B. I threw up in the sink. The next day someone rang my buzzer, twice. Then again, 3:17 p.m. I didn't answer. I watched from the peephole. The man looked wrong, familiar but off, like a mirror with a subtle warping, same face but older, worn, like he'd lived more. He stood still, 10 minutes, didn't knock, didn't move. Then he left something at the door, a flash drive. I waited an hour before opening it, just one file. You asked for proof. It was a recorded session, audio only, my voice again, but not me, the original. He spoke slowly, no emotion. They wiped me after the incident, said I'd compromised public trust thresholds, said I could either be recalibrated or replaced. They chose you. Pause. I was supposed to fade, but I didn't. Because you didn't earn the life. You're just an echo of me, filtered for compliance. Silence. Then, look in the mirror, Lucas. Which side is your mole on today? I ran to the bathroom. I stared. Left side. But in the cafe photo Shauna had screenshotted, it was on the right. I dug out my old medical records. Every scan, every blood test. Most had new last modified dates, last week. Even the MRI from my concussion in 2018. Doctor's signature was blank. I tried calling my mom. Number disconnected. Her Facebook said memorial page. Except I talked to her last Sunday. She sent me a recipe for lentil stew. I pulled up the message. Gone. I emailed an old editor I trust, Grayson. Asked if he remembered me covering the Lintwell leak back in 2020. His reply, "Who is this? We've never worked together." He forwarded my own byline, same article, same photo, but the name read Elliot Graves. I think I started crying, but I can't be sure. The sound didn't feel connected to me, like it was coming through a wall. That night, someone entered again, no forced lock, no alert, just footsteps. I locked myself in the bathroom, held a wrench, every light off. I whispered to the dark, "Why?" His voice answered from the other side of the door, calm, not angry, just tired. "I want my skin back." He left before sunrise, but the wrench I was holding, still on the counter, except it was different, newer, no rust on the handle. Mine had rust. I backed up everything, uploaded it to a secure server I found on an old hacktivist board. 3 hours later, the server's DNS was revoked, content wiped. Only message, echoes don't own truth. I tried walking outside yesterday. No one looked at me. Literally, faces turned away. Bus driver shut the door in my face. A kid bumped into me and muttered, "Sorry, sir," but didn't see me. I got home, checked my reflection. The mole was gone. Just now, I checked my voicemail again. One new message. His voice. "You're decaying fast. Tolerance breach is near. Soon you won't even think in your own words. Just surrender. Let me resume." Silence. Then, "You don't remember what you did. That's why they built you." I don't know what he's talking about. But every time I close my eyes now, I see glass, rows of faces behind it, watching, taking notes. Every version of me slightly off. One with green eyes, one with a stutter, one smiling, always smiling. I think they're testing who breaks last, and I'm cracking. The water in my tap runs warm, even when set to cold. My fingerprints don't match my own login screen, and my apartment key doesn't fit the lock anymore. He left another flash drive just now. I don't want to open it, but I will. Because I need to know one thing. If I'm the copy, then where's the original's body? The end. The first thing I noticed was the sound. Not a hum, not a buzz, just nothing. A kind of padded silence that pressed against my skull. Like the room was designed to swallow sound before it could form. I opened my eyes to a ceiling too white, too smooth, no seams, no light source I could trace, just glow. I sat up, my neck cracked, my body felt unused, like I'd been stored. The mattress beneath me was plastic wrapped, sticky under the blanket. I swung my legs down and touched cold tile. There were no windows, no doors, only mirrors. Tall, wall-mounted, two clean mirrors stretching from floor to ceiling on three sides. The fourth wall held a small square, what looked like a speaker, but it didn't speak. Below it, a note had been taped, the handwriting too neat to be mine. "You checked yourself in. You begged us." I laughed, short, dry. It felt like I hadn't used my voice in days, maybe longer. "Sure I did," I muttered, pressing my hand to one of the mirrors. The glass didn't reflect right. My face looked wrong. The eyes a second behind, the mouth a fraction delayed. I stepped back fast, too fast. My heel slipped and hit the bed frame. Pain shot up my ankle. And then I saw the chair. I hadn't noticed it before. Maybe it hadn't been there. Just a plain metal chair in the middle of the room now. Facing me. A figure sat in it. I froze. Swear to God, my heart didn't even beat once before the fear hit. Full body. She was wearing scrubs, white, sterile. Her face was too still. Her hands rested on her knees, palms up, and between them a small stack of white cards. She didn't speak. She raised one card. "Good morning, Leanne." My throat locked. I backed up against the bed, grabbing the blanket like it would help. "What the hell is this?" Another card. "Do you remember why you're here?" I shook my head. She didn't react. Just flipped the card, revealing another. "You asked us to help you." I laughed again, harder this time. It cracked in my throat. I paced. 3 steps forward, 2 back. "What kind of hospital is this? Where's the door?" She didn't answer, just held another card. "Let's begin." I looked at the mirrors again. No reflection from her side. Just me, alone. The next card read, "Describe your mother." My mouth opened, then closed. I tried to remember her face. I couldn't, not clearly. Blonde? No. Brunette. Sharp voice? No. Soft? A warmth? Maybe. A coldness? I didn't know. "She made stew," I said finally. "Every Sunday, even in July." The woman nodded once. No smile. She flipped the card. "Is she dead?" That hit harder. My hands started to shake. "I don't think so." She held up a new card. "You killed her." I lunged, knocked the chair over. She didn't flinch, didn't scream, didn't even blink. By the time I blinked, she was seated again. Cards perfectly stacked, hands perfectly still. No sound, no movement. Just that fake glow. The next day or the next hour, who knows, the questions changed. "You had a sister. You were an only child. You used to speak the language." "What language?" I shouted. No answer. Just the next card. "Say the word Venacruel." I laughed. It felt wrong in my mouth. The word tasted like metal, like blood. I stopped eating after that. Couldn't trust the food trays that appeared while I slept. Couldn't trust the way the handwriting on the wall kept changing. Sometimes it looked like mine. "Don't speak the mirrors," one said. Another, "Your voice belongs to her now." Who is her? I tried to break the mirror. I used the metal bed frame. Just shattered glass, and behind it, nothing. Not a wall, not wiring, just black. Like I'd cracked a hole in reality. I screamed into it. No echo, no response. The woman kept showing up, always seated, always silent. Eventually, the cards stopped being English. Words I didn't know. Letters I recognized but wrong. Bent, carved. They burned a little to read. And worse, I understood them. I told myself I was hallucinating, trauma, gaslighting, sensory deprivation. But then one card said, "This is your sermon." And the handwriting, I remembered it. Not abstractly, not vaguely, muscle memory. The way I used to form certain loops, the hard slant of my T, I'd written it, that language, that word, Venacruel. It was mine. Something in me cracked open. The next session, I walked toward her calmly, took the cards, sat in the chair opposite her. "What did I lead?" I asked. She didn't move, but one card rose. "Repeat your last sermon." I stared at her, shook my head. "I don't remember." Another card. I gripped the edge of the chair, nails digging in. My mouth moved on its own. "Those who speak truth to the sleeping must first sever the tongue of doubt." The words made me shake. My teeth clicked. I said them in English, but I heard them in something else, something older. I stood. "You're not helping me." She tilted her head slightly. I screamed, full volume, ran at the wall, slammed my body against it. The world didn't shake, but I did. Behind the glass, something watched. I could feel it. A low vibration, not sound, thought, maybe. Pressure in the skull, like someone clapping inside my head. Then I saw it, reflected in the mirror just for a second. Not her, not me. A face, my face, but wrong. Lips too wide, teeth like folded paper, and no eyes. Just black. I blacked out, woke up to my own voice playing over the intercom. "And those who fracture the self shall walk between tongues, forgotten by both." I curled into the corner. Didn't speak for days. I think they liked that. New cards, new rules. "You are none as one of many. The others are gone." I scratched words into the wall with my nail, my name, over and over. Then, one night, I found it already there, etched, different hand, same words. Don't answer the cards, they learn your cadence. The next session, I tore them from her hands. She didn't resist, just stared, unblinking. Under the stack, one card was different, black ink, circular script. Like an eye, I touched it and the world flickered, and I was outside the glass, watching myself sit there, watching her show me the cards. I pounded on the mirror. My reflection didn't look up. It didn't even blink, just sat, obedient, nodding. And the therapist, she looked straight at me, then smiled. First time I'd seen her mouth move, I screamed again, but there was no sound, just the word echoing in my head. Venacrul. The end. It started with 6 extra steps. I remember because I was carrying a laundry basket and my socks kept sliding on the laminate. I counted automatically, the way you do when you're tired and your brain latches onto numbers. I hit the light switch at the end of the hallway, turned and thought, wasn't it shorter yesterday? Damien? I called. He didn't answer. I walked back. The hallway looked normal. A bit darker than usual, but Berlin winters blur everything into grayscale. Maybe I was just tired. I didn't say anything. That night, I dreamt of a door at the far end of the hallway. We don't have a door there, just a bookshelf and an IKEA plant that always leans left. In the dream, the door was cracked open. I heard water dripping. I woke up with my back sweaty and cold. Our cat Miso was curled on my chest, purring. 3 nights later, it curved. I was brushing my teeth when I caught it. I leaned into the doorway, squinting. Our hallway had always been straight, a tight white corridor from the living room to the bedrooms, but now it bent slightly to the right, like a crescent. I stepped in. The laminate creaked differently, softer. The bend wasn't dramatic, subtle. But it didn't feel right. Did you notice this? I asked Damien the next morning. Notice what? I pointed down the hallway. That, the curve. He stared, toothbrush hanging from his mouth, then shrugged. I think it's always been like that. No, it hasn't. He looked at me, smiled like I was being cute. Sure, Sash, you just need a coffee. I tried to laugh, but the sound came out dry. That day I measured it, from the bedroom doorframe to the coat rack, 22 feet. At midnight I measured again, 34. The tape measure didn't snag or catch. The numbers were clean. I rolled it back up slowly, my fingers trembling like I'd touched something alive. I didn't tell Damien. Instead, I dropped a rubber ball down the hall. Just for fun. To prove something, though I wasn't sure what. It bounced once, rolled twice, gone. No sound, no rebound, just gone. I stood there for 20 minutes, waiting. Then I went to bed. I told myself I'd hear it in the morning. I didn't. It wasn't until the 8th night that I walked it. It kept stretching. No matter how far I walked, the end never came. I looked over my shoulder at one point, expecting to see the bedroom door. Just the same laminate stretch, stretching back now, too. I turned around again and kept walking. The floor shifted under me, first subtly, then with a texture that wasn't ours, almost rubbery. I crouched, touched it, felt warm. And then there was our kitchen, but not ours. Same linoleum, same counter layout, same red kettle on the stove. But Miso was nailed to the refrigerator with a dinner fork, stiff and hollow-eyed. Above him, our wedding photo, crumpled, soaked in something dark. I ran, back through the hallway, heart thrashing. I don't know how long I ran. It felt like minutes, could have been hours. When I burst into the bedroom, Damien wasn't there. Neither was the bed, or the closet, or the desk. Just bare floors and white drywall. I blinked hard, turned around. Still the hallway behind me, humming softly. My phone was gone. I checked the front door, locked. But the keys on the hook were wrong, not ours. I opened the door anyway. Outside, nothing. Not a street, not a hallway. Just a flat black space, like a stage with no set. I slammed the door shut, banged my head against it once, twice. Then it rang. My phone. The ringtone was ours, but the number just read 0. I answered. A voice, mine, spoke back. You're ready now. The call cut. The lights flickered, and then I was back in the hallway. Real hallway, with the bookshelf, the plant, everything in place. Damien was there too, making coffee. He smiled. Morning. I stared. Where's Miso? Miso? Our cat. He blinked. We don't have a cat. My throat dried. You're joking. He tilted his head. Are you okay? I didn't answer. I opened my phone. No photos. No wedding album. My name was there, Sasha Klein, but no messages, no contacts. My apps were all fresh installs. Email said I'd signed up yesterday. My Instagram had no posts. Not a single one. I searched Damien's name. No results. Not on Facebook. Not anywhere. I walked to our neighbor's door. Mrs. Ehlers, sweet old woman with loud slippers. She opened. Yes. Hi, it's Sasha from next door. I'm sorry, she said, squinting. Do I know you? My mouth opened. No words. She closed the door. I found the lease in the kitchen drawer. Same handwriting as always, mine. But at the bottom, where the signature should have been, it read, Approved, Iteration 7. The air felt heavier. I checked the building plans in the manager's office downstairs, blueprints framed near the mailboxes. Our unit didn't exist. Instead of a hallway, there was a concrete wall. No door, no number, just blank space. I stumbled back upstairs, opened the hallway closet. Inside, nothing but drywall. I pressed my ear to it. A heartbeat, not mine. That night, I tried not to sleep, but I did. And in the dream, I wasn't Sasha. I was something trying to remember how to be Sasha. The next morning, I opened the door to leave. The hallway was there again, longer, twisting, breathing. I took one step in, then another. My feet moved without my permission. The walls pulsed slightly. I swear I heard whispers, some in German, some in something else, low and layered. One voice said, "Stay still, she hasn't finished yet." I ran again, forward, into whatever version waited this time. I found Damien sitting at the kitchen table, but he was older, grayer. He looked up. "You're late." "What is this?" He stood slowly. "You're not real yet." "What? You were made here." "No, I moved in with you. You remember what they let you." He touched my face gently. "I've missed you every iteration, but you always unravel." I pulled back. "This isn't happening." He nodded sadly. "Not to you. Not yet." Then he opened the fridge. Inside, 7 versions of our wedding photo, each one slightly different. In one I had no eyes. In another he was missing. In the last we were both smiling, but behind us the hallway stretched on forever. "I'm not going back," I whispered. "You don't have to." He reached out, but when I blinked, he was gone. Just me, the photos, and a soft, rhythmic thudding beneath the floor. I turned slowly. The hallway waited, and it was smiling. Not metaphorically, actually smiling. A slight, fleshy upturn at the far bend. Lipless, pulsing. I walked, because I had no other place to go. The walls whispered again, Iteration 8 initializing. I passed by the plant, the bookshelf, a crack in the laminate I'd never noticed before. In the mirror at the end, my reflection blinked one beat too late, and I knew. I wasn't the first Sasha, wouldn't be the last, but I was closer than the others, closer to what they were building. And the hallway, it was still growing. The end. I used to fall asleep with white noise, just the hum of the air purifier and a podcast at low volume. It felt safe, controlled. But for the past few weeks, silence has been creeping in. Not literal silence, just that feeling when the room listens back. The first call came at 3:37 a.m. I was asleep, I think. The ringtone wasn't even mine. It sounded old, rotary or something. I remember fumbling in the dark and the screen just read, "Unknown caller." I answered. Static. Then, my voice. Whispering something I couldn't place, like a conversation I'd had with myself while half dreaming. "I don't think she loves me anymore." That's what it said. I hung up. My wife Mara was asleep beside me, breathing steady. I watched her chest rise and fall for way too long, then rolled over and pretended none of it happened. But the calls kept coming, always at 3:37. Always my voice, saying things I'd never said out loud. By the 5th night, I stopped answering, just watched the screen light up and die. One time I muted it and shoved it under the pillow. It still vibrated, louder than it should have, like it was alive. Then came the night it wasn't my voice anymore. It was Mara's, sobbing. "Andrew, please, wake up. I'm under the bed. I can't move. It's not me up there." I sat bolt upright, heart slamming so hard I thought I might throw up. Mara was beside me, curled up, peaceful. One arm draped over the blanket like a kid playing house. I didn't check under the bed. I should have. Next day, I brought it up over breakfast. Tried to laugh it off. "Weird dream last night. You were calling me from under the bed." She looked confused. "You okay?" I nodded, but I wasn't. I started recording the calls. That night, when it rang again, I let it go to voicemail. Next morning, I checked the audio, her voice again. Only this time, don't trust the one beside you. She doesn't blink. I didn't confront her. Couldn't. I watched her more carefully, though. Waited for her to blink. She did, probably. But sometimes when I wasn't looking directly, there'd be this pause. I set up a second phone, one hidden between the mattress and bed frame, audio only, motion sensitive. The first night, nothing. Second night, a whisper at 3:37. Let him sleep longer tonight. He's almost ready. I showed Mara. She stared at the waveform, frowning. That could be your voice. It's not. Maybe you talk in your sleep. You think I record myself whispering about myself? She laughed a little too hard. Andrew, you've been stressed. You're spiraling. Spiraling. That word sat wrong in my stomach. So I set up more gear, smart home sensors, one in the hallway, one under the bed, one on each side of the mattress. Night 1, 3:37 a.m., left side, still, right side, motion detected, heartbeat logged. Except I was sleeping on the left. Mara too. We checked the logs together. I showed her. She didn't say anything for a long time, just scrolled through the timestamps with a tight jaw. Then finally, you've been using these since before I moved in? I nodded. Then, who was on the right side last year? I hadn't thought to scroll back. Last year, hundreds of entries. Every single one, motion detected, right side, 3:37 a.m. Mara moved in 6 months ago. I didn't say anything, just closed the app. Later that night, while she was brushing her teeth, I heard her voice again. From the hallway, sobbing. I didn't want to switch sides, he made me. I ran out there. Empty hall, light still on in the bathroom, water running. She was in there, brushing, smiling. I thought you were crying, I said. She looked up in the mirror. I wasn't. I stopped sleeping. That's when the video call happened. I was checking in with my friend Colin, trying to stay sane. I set the phone on the desk facing the bed behind me. Halfway through the call, screen froze, not glitched, froze. Colin's face went still mid-sentence, eyes wide, mouth open. But the weird part wasn't him, it was me. Behind me on the bed, me. Lying down, eyes wide open, not blinking. 3 minutes, Colin never noticed. Then the screen unfroze, and the version of me on the bed was gone. I didn't tell anyone. What was I supposed to say? Instead, I checked the footage on the Home Assistant logs. New folder, hidden, labeled Dream User 01. Inside, voicemails, over 30 of them, all time-stamped between 3:35 and 3:40 a.m. All of them said things like, don't move this time, you always wake up too soon, she likes you better when you're quiet. And one, the last one, was just, stay in the bed, I'll answer the door. I unplugged the assistant. It turned itself back on. That night, Mara got a call while we were watching a movie. She glanced at it. Her face went pale. Unknown number, she said. She answered. Her face didn't move. She just listened. Then she hung up, put the phone down, picked up her wine. Wrong number, she said, but I saw her hand shake. That night, I pretended to fall asleep first, just lay there with my back to her. At exactly 3:37, I felt the bed move, not just shift, dip, like someone heavy climbed in beside me, but Mara was already there, breathing softly. And then, her voice, directly behind my ear, sleep through it this time, okay? I didn't move, didn't breathe. Just let the terror settle into my bones. Morning came, Mara made coffee like nothing happened. I checked the motion log, 2 entries, both sides. 3:37. I tried to leave that afternoon, told her I needed space. She just nodded, said it's okay, you'll be back. When I opened the front door, I woke up in bed, drenched in sweat, phone beside me. One new voicemail. Played it. Don't get up this time. I turned to Mara. Too fast, 3 times in 1 second. Like a reset, like a signal. And then she smiled, and then the phone rang again, from under the bed. The end. It started with the stupidest thing. I thought I had a smudge on my shoulder, just a gray blur hovering near my collarbone in the mirror, like someone had touched me with dirty fingers. I rubbed at it, nothing on my shirt. I leaned in, still there, but only in the reflection. I chalked it up to lighting, moved on. The new exhibit was called Interactive Illusion, Reflections of You. Clean lines, museum white walls, glass panels double-sided, hyper-polished. The kind that make your pupils dilate without you realizing it. We'd borrowed the mirrors from a closed East German lab, Decommissioned after the Cold War, the shipping manifest said. No one batted an eye. I should have. During install, I caught myself flinching when the glass creaked under pressure. But my reflection didn't flinch at the same time. It jerked a second early, like it was bracing for something I hadn't heard yet. I told myself I was overtired, stressed. The museum's budget was tight, and I'd been working 13-hour days. That's all, except it happened again and again. The third time, I deliberately startled myself, clapped my hands beside my head like a maniac. My reflection blinked before the sound, not during, not after, before. My chest went tight. I laughed too hard and backed away from the glass. Jesus, Livia, I muttered. Get some sleep. That night, I went home and made dinner. The hallway mirror caught me turning the stove dial, but in the reflection, I reached for the wrong burner first. I froze. The pan sizzled behind me. The reflection was watching over my shoulder, not in a figurative way. Its eyes were tilted, not toward me, but behind me, tracking something I couldn't see. I turned around fast. Nothing there, just steam curling off a pot. My fingers went numb. I avoided mirrors for a few days, not on purpose. I just kept turning lights off fast, pulled my hood low in the bathroom at work, wiped condensation off my mirror at home only halfway. I didn't want to see her face anymore. Then the visitor report started. 3 in one day. A couple complained that the interactive illusion exhibit made them nauseous. One woman told the docent her reflection felt too close, like the glass had bent inward. The fourth visitor came straight to me. She was maybe in her 60s, soft voice, tight smile. I'm sorry, she said, but that exhibit, it followed me home. I blinked. She nodded. I saw myself in my microwave door at midnight, and I wasn't wearing what I had on. I tried to speak. She gently put her hand on my arm and whispered, it knew I was alone. She didn't come back. Neither did I, not really. I stopped sleeping. Or if I did, I never stayed under. Dreams like static, like glass cracking under pressure. I'd wake up breathless, still hearing footsteps walking out of sync with mine. I finally did the thing I swore I wouldn't. I set up a camera, simple webcam, mounted discreetly on the frame of the largest mirror in the exhibit. I rigged a motion-activated light so it wouldn't record all night, just when something moved. I watched the footage the next morning at 4:12 a.m. It was empty at first, just reflections of shadows shifting in the dark. Then movement. My apartment. The mirror was showing my apartment, not the exhibit. It flickered in like a video feed buffering. My bedroom from above. I could see myself sleeping. Then I moved, but only in the reflection. My real body stayed still. The reflection sat up, slowly, then turned its head toward the camera. Right at me. My stomach twisted. I couldn't swallow. The reflection of me was smiling. I deleted the file. The next day I went back to the museum and searched the archives. The glass had come from a military surplus donation 2 years ago. Buried under layers of redacted forms, I followed names. One stuck, Anders Kell. Wovutu era intelligence. Experimental psych reflex tech, ran something called the Cognitive Window Initiative. His field notes weren't digitized. I found a box in deep storage, mislabeled under perception studies. Inside, sketches, mirror angles, diagrams of eye movement. One phrase repeated in almost every margin, bidirectional attention loop. Another note, scrawled beside a cracked diagram of a face. Reflections must remain passive until taught otherwise. My ears buzzed. One final scrap, folded in thirds. They need time, but once they've learned enough, they move independently. I left work early, walked home. No mirrors on the way, none in my bag. I kept my eyes low. At home, I flipped my laptop open, camera covered, screen dim, but the black surface of the screen caught my eye. My reflection stared straight back, smiling. I slammed the lid shut. That night, I taped every mirror in my apartment. Microwave, TV screen, even my phone. Black construction paper, thick layers. I showered in the dark, kept music on constantly. Anything to fill the silence. I lasted 4 days. Then the paper in the bathroom started peeling. Just the edges, curling outward, like something pressing from the inside. I tore it all down, threw the glass in the dumpster behind the building. Didn't help. Every surface showed her now. Polished doorknobs, kitchen tiles, even my eyes in the faucet stream. She blinked at different times, started turning her head, left, right, behind me. One night I felt her breath on my neck. I screamed, tore through the apartment, grabbed the museum key card, took the subway at 2:14 a.m. to the back entrance. I was going to destroy it. The exhibit was quiet, dimly lit. I moved fast. I didn't stop to think, just picked up a folding chair and smashed the largest mirror. Glass rained down in glittering shards. I kept going. Second panel, third, until the walls were bare and sharp with dust. I stood in the center, chest heaving. Then, footsteps. From behind me, I whipped around. Nothing. But in the splintered shards on the floor, I saw myself, standing, not moving, just staring. And behind me, a shape, human. Close, too close. I turned again. Still nothing. But every shard now showed a different angle. One was smiling, one had her hand on my shoulder, one blinked slowly, then tilted her head, like listening. I backed out, left the glass, left the museum. I tried not to speak for days, not to look at anything that could reflect. But it didn't matter. They'd learned enough. I see them now in the bottom of teacups, in strangers' sunglasses, in puddles that ripple before I step near. They move independently. Sometimes I feel their breath just before I sleep. And one night I woke up to the soft sound of my own voice whispering behind me. Not in a dream, not in my head, right behind my ear. Don't look yet, I'm almost done learning. The end. The first time I noticed it, I thought it was just timing. Coincidence. I was sipping weak coffee, watching through the slats in my kitchen blinds. He came at 7:03 a.m., same as always, pressed shirt, black satchel, and those heavy boots that never seemed to scuff. But what struck me was how he walked past every other house on Rosemary Lane. 12 houses, one delivery, mine. I tried not to think much of it. People work from home now, go paperless. But still, no catalogs, no flyers, no packages on porches, not even a damn pizza coupon. The next morning I watched again. Same thing. He moved briskly, eyes forward, never wavering. Houses with manicured lawns, cars in driveways, even wind chimes tinkling lazily. But he didn't stop at a single mailbox except mine. Slipped something in, adjusted his hat, walked on. I opened the mailbox before the flap even settled. Inside was a single envelope. No stamp, no return address. Inside, just a sheet of plain white paper. Blank. I stared at it for a long time, as if something might appear if I waited. I flipped it, held it to the light, even sniffed it. Paper, nothing more. 3 days in a row after that. Same delivery pattern, same blank paper. On the fourth day it changed. The paper was covered in scribbles, not words, just a frantic mess of pen strokes. Thick, black lines pressed hard enough to tear the page in places. I ran my finger along one rip. The ink came off like ash. That night I asked Margie next door if she ever saw the mailman. She smiled, like I'd asked her favorite color. Oh sure, he's just punctual. That's not what I meant, I said. I mean, do you get any mail? She blinked. Bills come online now, everything's digital. I didn't push further. Her eyes didn't look confused, just uninterested. Like I'd asked her if she preferred smooth or crunchy peanut butter. The next envelope came heavier. A pale yellow sheet, lined like old school paper. There was a name at the top, my sister's, Elsie. Underneath it, a sentence. My handwriting. I'm sorry I let go of your hand. I dropped it. I never sent that letter. I'd written it after the funeral. In a grief group exercise, I think. It had been private. I'd torn it up, burned it. I was sure of it. The next morning I waited by the door. When he stepped onto my porch, I opened it before he could lift the flap. He didn't jump, didn't blink, just held the envelope out to me with one hand. Why only me? I asked. He smiled politely. I only deliver what you forget. Then he turned and walked off, boots thudding the sidewalk in perfect rhythm. I slammed the door, turned every light on, piled the letters on my coffee table. 11 envelopes. One had my childhood address, but the zip code was wrong. From a state I'd never even visited. One had a crude drawing of a goldfish with the name Bubbles under it. I'd named a fish that when I was 5. Another, just the phrase, "He took your sweater and you never asked why." I started tearing them up, every single one. Shredded them, flushed them, burned the pieces in the sink. The fire made the room smell sweet and wrong like scorched honey. Next morning, 2 new envelopes, one with perfume on it. The scent made me gag. That night I drove to the post office. Windows dark, doors locked, but the side hatch was cracked, like someone forgot to pull it shut. Inside was warm, stale. It didn't smell like paper or ink. It smelled like old breath, damp breath. I walked past the front counter, into the back office. Filing cabinets lined the walls, some open, some sealed. The drawers hummed, soft mechanical purring. I opened one. The files inside all had one label, Gretchen M. Leary. Every drawer, hundreds, maybe thousands. My name in different fonts, colors, even handwriting. I pulled out a random file. Inside, a dentist appointment card from 1993, a motel key, a piece of hair taped to cardstock, my handwriting on a napkin that said, "Don't forget the apple juice," a photo of a red bike, mine. I opened more drawers, more fragments, report cards, receipts from restaurants I didn't remember, a note that just said, "Don't go back." I don't know how long I was there before I felt it. The change, the air got heavier, denser, like walking into a thunderstorm with no rain. Behind me, footsteps, precise, steady. He didn't speak until he stood right beside me. "These are what you left behind," he said, his voice calm. "Memories unclaimed gather here." I looked at him. Really looked. His skin looked normal, pale, a little gray maybe, but his eyes weren't right. They didn't focus. They shimmered like puddles on asphalt in the heat. "I'm not dead," I whispered. "No," he said, "but you're not all here either." I stepped back. "What does that mean?" He tilted his head. "You've been missing for 11 years, Gretchen." "I'm not missing," I started, but he interrupted. "Not officially, not legally, but in every way that matters, you're fading." I grabbed one of the files. "Why me? Why this town?" He looked around the room. "People like you make folds," he said. "Little creases in the world, places to hide from pain, from time. I moved here. I got a lease. I pay utilities. You don't. None of that's real. You're not lost. Just remembering too slowly." My mouth was dry. My tongue felt heavy. "I want to leave," I said. He nodded. "Then stop opening the mail." That night I didn't sleep. I waited in the living room with every light on. I watched the sun rise, watched him come. I didn't go to the mailbox. But later, when I stepped outside, the envelope was on the doorstep. I didn't touch it. By the next morning there were 3, then 7, each one thicker, heavier. One thumped when I picked it up. I opened it. Inside, a single molar cracked and yellowed. I vomited. By the end of the week, my kitchen was full. Letters stacked in towers, a crushed pack of Lucky Strikes I never smoked, a school ID badge from a school I never attended, a note from someone named Ray, "Sorry I hurt you." I started forgetting little things, phone pins, names of coworkers, my mother's voice. When I tried calling people, no one picked up. I stood in front of the mirror one morning and stared for 20 minutes. My face looked familiar, but only parts of it. I stopped going outside. But the mail still came, always to the door now, sometimes shoved through the window slats. One morning, I woke up and the walls were gone. I was sitting in the post office, no files this time, just me, a table, one last envelope. The mailman sat across from me. "You're almost ready," he said. "For what?" "To forget." He slid the envelope forward. "This is the last one. After this, there's no more mail." I stared at it. "What happens when there's no more mail?" He folded his hands. "Then you're free." I didn't open it. I burned it instead, right there on the table. He watched the flames, didn't blink. "You're stubborn," he said. "I like that." But the next morning, there was another envelope. It was empty, but I still felt lighter, hollow. I walked down Rosemary Lane. The houses were faded now, like sketches, doors that didn't open, cars without reflections. Margie was on her porch. She waved. Her hand passed through the railing. "Morning," she said. "You get any mail today?" I nodded. "Lucky you," she smiled. I turned and walked. The town ended at a cornfield that shouldn't be there. Rows of stalks swaying without wind. I stepped in. Each row whispered. Tiny voices, fragments of conversations, apologies, laughter, screams. At the center there was nothing, just quiet. I waited. The mailman never came. The end. I moved into the Ridgewood Apartments on a Monday morning, the kind of morning where nothing smells like anything. No coffee, no car exhaust, no human sweat, just air, quiet air, which is what I needed. I'd signed the lease after my 4th mandatory leave from work. They said I needed a therapeutic reset, said it like they were doing me a favor. I didn't argue. My last client tried to overdose in the group bathroom. I don't know if she made it. Nobody told me. My new place was clean, simple, beige walls, carpet with vacuum streaks, and a window facing the alley. The upstairs unit was supposed to be under renovation, water damage or something. The landlord said it'd be quiet, said I'd basically have the building to myself. He lied. That first night I heard the piano, not music exactly, just 3 notes, over and over, B flat, G, B flat, sloppy and soft like a child learning scales by feel. It stopped around 11 p.m. I didn't even think to complain. It was just familiar, too familiar. The next day, I left a sticky note on the door upstairs. Hey, if you're practicing piano, mind keeping it down after 10? Thanks. I even drew a smiley face. No answer, just silence. Until the humming started. It came from directly above my bedroom. A woman's voice, low and syrupy, trailing through the vent with a lullaby I hadn't heard in 20 years. I didn't recognize the words, but I knew that rhythm, 4 slow beats, then a pause. The sound made my scalp prickle. I recorded it on my phone, played it back the next morning. Nothing, just static. Thursday night, the yelling started. Not a fight, just one man's voice barking out chores like some militarized bedtime routine. Dishes, then lights out, and if I hear that goddamn TV again. The rest cut off, not because it ended, because I hit record and everything went quiet the moment I did. I texted the landlord. He replied an hour later, "There's nobody living upstairs. That unit is gutted, shouldn't be any noise." I didn't respond, because I'd already pressed my ear to the ceiling, and someone was walking barefoot, slow, deliberate, back and forth above my bed. By Sunday, I started recognizing the voices, not just the tone or cadence, but the exact phrasing, the pauses, the slurred consonants from too much gin, the subtle wheeze my dad used to get when he was yelling, the sing-song hum my mom used to make when she was ignoring him. And the piano? That wasn't just a scale, that was my scale, the one I used to practice in the garage. I dug out an old USB mic and set it up near the vent, hit record, left it running while I went out for a walk just to clear my head. By the time I came back, my phone had 2 texts from my sister. "Did you just send me something? Marcus, what the hell is this?" I checked my email. The audio file had sent itself. I don't even remember doing it. I opened the attachment and almost dropped my phone. It wasn't just sounds, it was full conversations, replicas of memories I didn't even know I remembered. My father screaming about the basement door being left open, my mother whispering apologies into a cracked bathroom mirror, and then, at the 20-minute mark, my own voice, a child's voice, calling down the hallway. "Marmar, you awake?" That was Marla's voice. From 1995, I hadn't heard it in 3 decades. My inbox dinged. "These are real. That was from the night Dad hit the TV with the hammer. You were hiding under the couch. I was sweating, like full body, no reason sweat." I hit play again. Something new, under the surface, barely audible. A pattern. I loaded the file into audio software and pulled up the spectrogram. Between the yelling, someone, or something, was threading in short, clipped syllables at exact intervals. Poem. It wasn't random, it was a code. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at my desk staring at the ceiling, listening, waiting. Just after 3 a.m. I heard footsteps above me, then a dragging sound, furniture scraping wood. But the unit was supposed to be stripped bare. I grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight, and crept upstairs. The door to Unit 3B was unlocked. Not just unlocked, ajar. Inside it was cold. No insulation. The windows were covered in painter's plastic. Bare bulbs hung from exposed wires. The walls were stripped to lath and stud. No furniture, no piano, no people. Just one thing on the floor, directly in the center of the room. A framed photo of our old house in Forest Hill. Burned around the edges, half-melted glass. I stood there shaking. The air tasted like char. Wood smoke and something sour, like wet carpet left too long. Then I heard it, from below. My own voice, screaming, not words. Just this long, wet sound of panic, like someone had sewn my throat shut and I was forcing air through scar tissue. I ran. I don't even remember going back down the stairs. 1 second I was in 3B, the next I was in my kitchen with the tap running and the fridge door wide open. My laptop screen was lit. The recording was playing again. Only this time, the voice sequence was different. It was reading dates. Each date matched a memory I hadn't accessed in years. Times I'd passed out drunk. Times I'd lost hours in the break room at work. Times I woke up in my car without knowing how I got there. The last date was tomorrow. I tried to call Marla. No answer. I left 16 voicemails, half of them just breathing. The next night, I slept in the bathtub with the door locked and music playing. At 2:14 a.m., the music cut out. dead silence. Then, from the hallway, my own voice again, but not young, not scared. My current voice, tired, hollow, muted like I was speaking through drywall. I think I live upstairs now. I stayed frozen, didn't move until the sun came up. When I finally stepped out of the tub, the bathroom mirror was fogged over. Someone had written on it with their finger, "You remember now." I packed a bag, drove across town to Marla's place. When she opened the door, she didn't say anything, just stared at me, wide-eyed. "You're doing it," she whispered. "Doing what?" She stepped back like I'd struck her. "You're talking like him, just like him." I didn't understand. My voice was my voice, right? She showed me the messages I'd sent her the night before. Voice memos, 5-second bursts, me barking orders, me humming lullabies, me screaming at no one. I didn't remember any of it. She made me sleep on the couch, locked her bedroom door. I woke up with plaster dust in my mouth. My shoes were caked with soot. The doormat was singed. I don't think I ever left the apartment. Not really. I think I brought it with me. Or maybe I never moved into Ridgewood at all. Maybe Ridgewood was built from me. Every room a different trauma. Every wall a replay, a loop, a reconstruction, like a neural recording studio, built from memory and shame. The last thing I remember clearly is my reflection in Marla's hallway mirror. I looked pixelated, like someone was overwriting me frame by frame. Now when I hear the voices, I don't panic, because I understand. They're not echoes, they're rehearsals. And I know I'm part of them now. Sometimes when it's quiet, I go upstairs, and I wait, and I wait, and I wait. The end. It started at the TSA line. The guy took my ID like it was nothing, glanced at the card, then at me, and didn't hand it back. 1 second. He pressed a button on his podium. I tried to play it cool, adjusted my backpack strap, smiled at the family behind me. Their toddler dropped a juice pouch. No one looked at me again. A second agent came over. She had gloves on, asked if I had another form of ID. I said, "That's my driver's license. I've used it for years." They didn't argue. They just looked at each other. Then the questions started. "Your date of birth?" "December 12th, 1992, Durham, North Carolina." "Eye color, brown." Silence. The woman tilted the card toward me. "It says green." I leaned in, heart skipping. Sure enough, green. But they've always been brown. I remember getting teased for it in middle school. Mud eye, crap eye. I never forgot that. They didn't let me go. Instead, they escorted me to a gray room behind a sliding door. Cold metal table, plastic chairs, the same damn questions, just quieter now. When they asked me to verify my signature, I didn't hesitate. I signed exactly how I always had. D. Rhodes with the loopy R, just like on every check I'd ever written. The man on the other side turned the paper. His eyes didn't move. "This doesn't match." He showed me the license. The signature was tight, angular, completely different, like someone else entirely. I laughed. That brittle, confused laugh. "What is this? Some prank?" He didn't laugh. He pressed a tablet screen toward me. "Look here." Facial scan. I leaned forward. The red X appeared instantly. No match. I tried again. Another X. I pulled out my phone to check my bank app, something proof. But Face ID failed. I tapped in my passcode, sweating, and pulled up my driver's license photo from my own gallery. I froze. The face in that photo wasn't mine. It looked like me. Same shape, same eyes, but off. The nose too narrow, cheekbones too flat, like someone made a Devon in Photoshop using stock parts. When they finally let me leave, they kept my license, said it had to be reported for fraud. I barely remember the Uber ride, just the driver saying, "Rough day, huh?" and me nodding like an idiot. I checked into a hotel using my credit card, declined. I handed over my debit card, also declined. The clerk smiled tight. Sometimes the system glitches. Want to try a third? I didn't have a third, so I paid in cash. Took the elevator to the 4th floor, room 412. The moment the door shut, I locked the bolt, dropped my bag, sat on the edge of the bed and breathed. Something was wrong. I pulled out my birth certificate from the inner sleeve of my bag. Yes, I still carried it, habit from moving apartments a lot. Held it in one hand, phone camera in the other. Opened my email. Typed up an application for a new ID, but when I submitted the form, the screen flashed red. Image slot already full. What the hell did that mean? I tried again. Now it said user data unsynchronized, overlap detected. My phone buzzed. It was my mom. I answered, voice trembling. Mom, something weird's happening. She was calm. Did you lose your ID again? No, it's not that. They said the photo doesn't match. The signature, none of it does. And Face ID. She laughed. Devin, you always looked a little different in photos. That's nothing new. I sat up straighter. What do you mean? You know, since high school, people always said you had one of those changing faces. What the hell does that mean, Mom? But she just said, get some rest, honey. You always get dramatic when you travel. She hung up. I stared at my phone. It didn't feel real, like she was reading from a script. The hotel room buzzed faintly, air vents or maybe old wiring. I went to the mirror, looked at myself, eyes brown, hair same. But the longer I looked, the more I hesitated. Was my nose sharper yesterday? I backed away, sat down, opened my laptop, searched my name, Devin Rhodes. Results poured in. A guy in Arizona with my name. Photo kind of looked like me. One in Florida, one in Oregon, all different, slightly off versions, and yet familiar. I clicked the DMV database, tried to file an ID request. The screen froze, then loaded something else. A report, identity collision, multiple instances detected. Below that, timestamps of applications, dozens, across different states, years apart. Filed under Devin Rhodes, my birth date, my details, none of them mine. That's when the hotel phone rang. I didn't answer, just stared. It rang again. I picked up. Hello? A pause, then a voice, low, muffled, like it was underwater. You were never distinct enough. Click. I slammed the receiver down, threw the chain on the door, checked the windows, turned on every light. Back at the mirror, my face looked smeared, like the resolution dropped, the edges too soft, eyebrows thinner, eyes almost green. I pulled back, rubbed my face, tried to remember something, anything, only I would know. A story, a scar, an inside joke. Nothing came. Just static. I grabbed my phone and hit record. Described myself, my memories, my thoughts, everything. Just to have it. But when I played it back, the voice was wrong. Tinny, flat, like a text-to-speech filter. I dropped the phone. It kept playing. We are not deleting you, Devin. We are integrating you. No, I ran. Down the stairs, out the lobby. I tried to get another hotel. They asked for ID. I showed my passport card. System says this is a deprecated instance. I backed out. No one stopped me. I tried to check my email on a library computer. Login failed. Tried my social, Facebook, LinkedIn, everything. Account not found. Even my old MySpace page was gone. Gone. I called my boss. He answered like I was a stranger. You must be calling about the opening. Sorry, we filled the Devin role last week. I whispered, I am Devin. A pause, then a soft click. Nothing. Not even static. I slept on a bench that night. Cold crept up through the metal. My body felt thinner. My fingers less defined. I looked at the reflections in shop windows. Sometimes I wasn't in them. Sometimes something else was. A gray blur. Shoulders and mouth. No face. I started asking strangers, do you recognize me? Some would say no. Others paused like they almost did. Did you go to Central High? I thought you were my cousin for a second. You look familiar, but I can't place it. That's the thing. They almost remember, but they don't. And now I don't either. Not fully. I sleep in different cities, use cash until they stop taking it, wear hats, avoid cameras. I carry a photo of myself from years ago, show it to people. They shrug. Sorry, man. My reflection doesn't blink anymore. I don't think it's me, but I still try. Every morning, I whisper my name out loud. Devin Rhodes, born December 12, 1992, Durham, North Carolina. Over and over, like a prayer to something that doesn't believe in me anymore. The end. They told me the cameras were for safety. Every wall in the behavior mapping complex was embedded with them, little round black eyes in the corners where paint met plaster. But even on the first day, I noticed they weren't tracking us. They followed the walls, moved subtly, almost imperceptibly, angling ever so slightly toward door frames, corners, cracks. Not us. I'd taken the internship because the funding was generous and the research sounded ambitious. Dynamic crowd behavior optimization, they said. Real-time architectural responsiveness. But the application had no human resources contact, only a location pin dropped deep into Belo Horizonte. It didn't feel like Brazil. It felt like somewhere else pretending to be a city. Same streets, same smells, but the air, it never moved, not once. And the walls, white, gray, glass, made no sound when wind should have passed. You could scream and the echo would stop halfway back. The first time I noticed it was my second week. A janitor opened a maintenance panel. The moment the latch clicked, 3 cameras along the hall swung, not at him, but at the narrow slit of exposed drywall inside. They twitched, adjusted, settled. One of them blinked red twice. That night, I looked through the system logs. I had admin access, probably a mistake. There were no names of people, only architectural surfaces. Wall 2113, expression detected. Subwall 44, tremor pattern. Joint section 82, anomaly pulse. No faces, no bodies, just walls and time. I tried asking Dr. Henrique, the project lead. He smiled, tight and polite, and said, "Aisha, you're thinking in old world terms. In this facility, people are not subjects. The structure is the subject. We're mapping the nervous system of space itself." He laughed. I didn't. The next week, I started feeling dizzy in corridor F. Only that one. The lights buzzed slightly higher there, almost a tone, like a low F sharp. You could feel it in your stomach lining. I passed through quickly, always. Then, one night, 2:11 a.m., I woke up at my desk. I don't remember falling asleep. My laptop was open, displaying a newly uploaded document. Plan update, internal neuroarchitecture schema v4.7. There was a new wall, wall Aisha 1. I stared at the floor plan. It was where the break room used to be. Now it was just a rectangle with no entrance, tucked inside the corridor. The cameras had reoriented, slightly, just a few degrees, but all pointed to that wall now. I walked there in the morning. The break room was gone. It wasn't under construction. It wasn't locked. It simply no longer existed. The light was dimmer there, softer, like filtered through skin. The drywall smelled faintly of salt and coconut oil, like my mother's kitchen. I pressed my hand to it. It was warm. The next few days blurred. My keycard began failing in random sections. Room names changed on the directory screens. I watched a hallway stretch slowly over a week. What used to be 20 feet now felt like 30. No one else mentioned it. When I asked another intern, Clara, if she noticed the lights changing color near the elevators, she looked at me and whispered, "You shouldn't track changes out loud. That's how it learns your rhythm." Then she left. 3 days later, I couldn't find her name in the system. I stopped sleeping in my apartment, started dozing in utility closets or unmonitored corners. The cameras never tracked me, never moved when I did, only the walls. I began testing them. Cough near a vent, camera shift. Whisper at a wall junction, micropan. Cry silently in the hallway corner, 6 cameras reoriented. Slowly, tenderly. It wasn't watching me. It was listening to the building's reactions to me. I wasn't the subject, I was the control variable. The architectural response to me, the anxiety, the vertigo, the tension, I was the emotional data shaping its neuroarchitecture. That's what Henrique meant. The building was learning to feel, and I was its blueprint. 2 weeks later, I accessed the restricted server logs using a password from an old badge. I found replication protocols, 9 files labeled Emo Map Asia, dated and geo-stamped, sent to other labs, Tokyo, Munich, Toronto, Nairobi. They were seeding me into other structures. I booked a flight home. My mother's house in Recife was small, concrete, a place I knew like skin. But when I stepped inside, something was off. I couldn't explain it. The fridge hummed in a deeper tone. The hallway creaked in a rhythm I'd only heard in corridor F. The paint on the bathroom wall had started to peel, not from water, but from heat stress. Stress patterns identical to the trial simulations at the complex. The walls knew me. They exhaled when I entered rooms. Subtle shifts in temperature followed me. At 2:13 a.m., the hallway light flickered twice. Same timestamp. Same anomaly pulse. I ran my hand across the living room wall. It felt slightly concave. It had always been flat. The next day, I woke to find a new doorway. My childhood closet now opened into a smaller inner chamber, 2 feet deep, painted in sterile gray. No purpose, no fixtures, just emptiness. I slammed it shut. That night, the walls ticked, rhythmic, almost like breath. I tried staying with a friend in another city. 3 days in, her apartment mirror distorted at the edges. Not warped, angled, like a lens being recalibrated. She asked if I was okay. I smiled, lied. At night, the ceiling hummed. That's when I knew. It wasn't the buildings. It was me. Somehow I'd become the schema. The architecture didn't map my behavior. It wrote with it. My reactions, my fear, my rhythms, they were harvested, turned into design code, spread. Wherever I went, space would learn, breathe, adjust. I was the pattern. I booked a final appointment with Henrique, demanded answers. He barely looked up. "You gave us the perfect signal," he said. "Consistent emotional gradients, clear architectural influence. We didn't design the building to track you, Aisha. You helped the building design itself." I stood there, silent. The floor beneath me vibrated, barely. He looked at me again. "It knows you. It trusts you. You're its native language now." I left. Back in my apartment, I packed nothing, just my notebook. At 3:09 a.m., I opened the fridge. It buzzed. 3 seconds later, a soft click echoed from the living room wall. A new scene. I approached, laid my hand against it. Warm, faint pulse. Like a resting heart. My name was never meant for people anymore. It belonged to the walls. The end. And that's the end. But the night is far from over. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more. Tell me, are you still awake? Or did the whispers follow you into your dreams? If sleep won't come just yet, there are plenty more stories waiting for you.